Good morning here on the Bat Around. I am Zach Goodman without Paul Valley at the current moment. As you can see, if you're in the Baltimore area, there's been a lot of storms, been a lot of rain these past few days, and Paul, unfortunately, ran into a closed road. I think it was Cromwell Bridge. So it's just me for the moment. So Paul should show up here in, 10 or so minutes, hopefully, and we'll get the show underway. But for now, let's talk a little Orioles to get this show started. So the Orioles were postponed last night, as I just talked about. Been a lot of rain, not a really good weather week. But the Orioles coming in to last night's game before it was unfortunately postponed. Now there's going to be a doubleheader Sunday. But before it was unfortunately postponed, the Orioles have been playing some better baseball, obviously on a 2-game win streak at the moment. We're able to take a 9-4 win against Minnesota on May 4th and a 5-3 win against Minnesota again on May 5th. So the Orioles, obviously we know they're not going to be a contender this year. We know they're not going to be competing, but the Orioles have been playing some better baseball and some really respectable baseball, I think is the best word for it. They won 9-5 against Boston on last Sunday. Obviously a 2-1 loss against Minnesota in the opener in the series on Monday. They're playing close games, and they seem to be playing baseball that's actually, I wouldn't say it's on brand for them. It's different from what they've done in the past few years. We talk so much about this team trying to take a step forward in 2022, and I'm not going to come out here and say that this team is so much drastically better than what it was in 2021, but you see these changes that have taken place in just the past few games, and really since the start of the season, and just the fact that they're playing closer games. And that obviously has a lot to do with the pitching and how stellar it's been. And that's missing John Means. The best pitcher on the staff is not even here. He had Tommy John. He's out for the year. But you've got guys like Jordan Lyles. You've got guys in the bullpen like Jorge Lopez. You've got guys like Kyle Bradish now, who made his major league debut and has come up and looked pretty decent in 2 starts. He's given up a few earned runs, but overall he's pitched okay. Of course, Bruce Zimmerman has pitched well, the Baltimore product, who's actually, probably the ace of the staff right now. You look up and down at this Orioles roster and what they've done in all the close games they've played, and you're starting to see that they're playing some better baseball and a better brand of baseball. Now, we've talked a lot about on the show about the fact that the Orioles haven't been hitting, and that's something we really expected, I think, coming into the season, was the Orioles to really come out and hit, because the lineup is not all that bad. I mean, you look at the names in it, and of course there's not going to be a lot of star names. There's no Manny Machados or Mike Trouts on this team, but you look at guys like Ryan Mountcastle. You look at guys like Cedric Mullins. Austin Hayes took a step forward last year and was a 2.5 WAR player. And you thought coming into the season that they'd be respectable, at least, as far as the bats go. But to start off the season, they were pretty cold. They weren't hitting with runners in scoring position. At one point, they were like 7 for 80. They've turned it around now, not to a huge degree, but in the past few days at least, they've scored 14 runs and 7 home runs, with 7 home runs in the past 2 games, which, is a big turnaround from what they started with at the beginning of the year. They started wearing the home run chain, if you've seen that. Obviously, that's become a pretty big thing. I believe they stole it off a fan. I could be wrong in that. But the home run chain has clearly helped them turn things around, maybe get a little mojo going in that locker room. And look, it's exciting. The Orioles are hitting the ball with much more success at a higher rate than they were to begin the season. Austin Hayes, he's breaking out, finally becoming that guy that we knew as a prospect, that 5-tool player, that guy who, frankly, does everything well in the field. Not only the arm is an 80-grade arm, but it's also the bats come alive in recent years. He's hit some home runs. I think 22 last year. He's already got 3 this year. He climbed the monster in left field a few days ago. The wall in Camden Yards, not the monster, I should call it. But Paul Valley's here, by the way, guys. Welcome Paul Valley to the show.
Yeah, today's show brought to you by Cromwell Bridge Road, making people late for work since 1963. Either you're behind somebody doing 5 miles an hour under the speed limit, or there's a telephone wire down. I should have just used Waze, and it would have told me there was a stoppage in the road, and I could have gotten, or maybe nobody would have updated it. Who knows? Either way, I'm here now. I was listening to the show, and I heard you talking about the pitching. You're talking about Austin Hayes. And, yeah, man, the bats are coming alive. They didn't steal the home run chain from a fan.
That's what I read.
He lent it to them.
Oh, he lent it to them. Okay,
there was a video on Twitter, and it was from Orioles, Masson Orioles, talking about how – and it was the guy who lent him the chain. He said, I bought the chain. I was wearing it. I gave it to Anthony Sanders, the first base coach, Anthony Sanders' son, who gave it to the Orioles, and then they started mashing home runs and said, you know what, just keep it. I've got 3 or 4 more anyway because he had bought 3 or 4, so he's in a good spot. The Orioles are now in a good spot. Look, it's been great to see them hitting some home runs, even though the 5 home runs on Thursday night were solo shots. It's still 5 home runs. They've got 7 in the last 2 games, and we're happy to see them finally start swinging the bat a little bit.
Yeah.
But we've seen this before.
Well, this was the reason. I think this was the reasonable expectation with this team, that they would hit the ball well. We looked at the pitching staff, we looked at the lineup, and we said the lineup's going to be far better. That's what we concluded before the season. And, throughout the first few games, that was not even close to being true. I mean, the pitching has far exceeded the lineup and what they've done in production. But this, I think, what we're seeing now, and maybe not 5 home runs in a single game, but what we're starting to see now is a lot more reminiscent of, I think, what we expected to see, because you do have quality bats in this lineup. And there's guys like Jorge Mateo, who are really unsung heroes of this team, who maybe not a lot of people know around the country and around the league. But a guy who comes out, hits triples, hit a home run the other night, a pretty massive shot into the bullpen. There's guys like this on this team.
Tomahawked it too.
Right, exactly. There are guys like this on this team that can do damage, and we expected them to do damage, and now they finally are.
Well, yeah, and it's definitely better to see than what we've been seeing in the past this year. Look, their offense still, over the course of the season, hasn't put up the numbers that you'd expect. They are getting a little bit better. They've been playing really good pitching staffs. You look at the fact that they squared off against Tampa Bay and Milwaukee the first 2 series of the year, and those are 2 of the best pitching staffs in baseball. I don't know. I can't explain to you what the hell happened out in Oakland, but the Yankees can pitch a little bit. Nestor Cortez just out of this world apparently this year. Although they didn't face off against Garrett Cole. And then you saw what happened when they faced teams that didn't have a great pitching staff, like the Boston Red Sox, who are now in last place in the AL East at 10-17, and they took 2 or 3 from them because they don't have great pitching. They go up against Minnesota, the 2 best pitching staffs, arguably the best pitching staff in the American League to date. And they lose the first 2 games, but then they go up against guys who are kind of reclamation products in Dylan Bundy, who is known to give up the long ball. We know that all too well here. And going up against Chris Archer, whose best seasons are probably 5-6 years ago. And sure enough, they hit him around. That's what this team is going to do to get against these middling to subpar pitchers. And that's not to say that Dylan Bundy and Chris Archer are subpar, but there's a reason they've been traded a bunch. They have the talent, but they also have the propensity for the long ball.
Right.
What we need to see from this team is consistency, and it's a team that they'll score 9 runs one day and then they'll go out and score 1 run the next. They need to consistently be scoring 4, 5, 6 runs a game. Now, 6 runs a game, you're elite. I don't think that this team is elite. But you brought up Austin Hayes, and Austin Hayes right now, and I said it last week I can't remember who I said it about, but I said, that dude's a dude, right? This guy in 2017, he put together a monster season. Hit over 300, over 30 homers, close to 100 RBIs. Was a finalist for one of the 5 for the minor league player of the year in all of minor league baseball that year. Injuries and ineffectiveness have kind of hampered him, but we saw him come on the second half of last year, especially in September when he hit 7 or 8 home runs, and we're seeing kind of a glimpse of what this guy can be. And this year, after a really slow start the first week or so and kind of hitting into some bad luck, he is off and running. He's got the best batting average on the team. He's hitting for power.
Best OPS on the team as well.
Best OPS on the team. He's driving in runs. He's playing great defense. This is the player that we saw in 2017. This is the guy, the first guy from the 2016 draft class to make it to the big leagues.
Right.
And we're seeing it now that this is who he is. And look, man, we talk about the depth of outfielders in this Orioles system, and Austin Hayes is having a say in, hey, don't forget about me, because we've all kind of assumed. I even saw somebody say, I think he'll be our 4th outfielder in the future.
No.
Austin Hayes is proving. Now, look, you want to see him take more pitches. You want to see him get on base more.
Sure.
But look, there's another guy who was a great outfielder here who didn't get on base a lot, and that was Adam Jones.
Sure.
Who still hit his share of home runs, played great defense, still hit for a high average, just didn't walk a ton. And some players are just like that. Ryan Mountcastle's another guy in the lineup like that. So it's definitely something that we're happy to see. You mentioned Jorge Mateo. We're going to talk about him in Orioles banter because he's a really intriguing player. That I get more excited watching him the more I watch him. But look, this offense has been putting up numbers the last couple of games. It's all about continuing to do it and getting that consistency.
Yeah, you mentioned with Hayes, just the fact that injuries have kind of slowed him down and not given him really the opportunity to have this breakout. But let's not forget, the guy was a 2.5 WAR player last year. And if you're saying he's going to be a fourth outfielder, I want you to simply look at that number and the 22 home runs he hit last year.
In 130 games.
Right, in 130 games. Really? Fourth outfielder? That's 2.5 WAR players aren't fourth outfielders. Those are, maybe on the Dodgers you're a fringe starter because the Dodgers are stacked to the gills. But on the Orioles, that is a starter every day of the year for now. And if the Orioles want to trade him, if that's the route they decide to go, fine. But there's no way this guy's a fourth outfielder.
And look, this was just a fan who was giving their opinion, opinions are like elbows. Just about everybody has one.
Yes,
you know what I mean. So you take it with a grain of salt. This wasn't a guy with a blue check mark next to his name or anything like that, but just the fact that people have that in their mind, and it's like, whoa, wait a second, let's pump the brakes here. And meanwhile, you look down in the minor leagues, and there's not really an outfielder down there right now. We have these guys who we like, who we think are going to be players, but there's not really an outfielder down there right now that's tearing it up. Robert Newstrom might be having the best year, but Stowers is hitting 233. Yeah. Colton Cowser's hitting about 240 down at high A, and he's at high A. He's still got a couple of years till he's going to get here, maybe another year or so. And
I believe they'll all figure it out, but it's just.
I want to know what you think about them putting Anthony Santander at first base. They've been hitting him ground balls there. I'm not sure why, because you've got Mountcastle, you've got Mancini. The only thing I can think of is they're preparing for a trade of Mancini or a trade of Santander and trying to up his value. But the thing is, Santander is having a better year, and if he can, maybe they're saying if he can play first base, it makes it easier to trade Mancini, because you can have Mountcastle play first base, you can have Santander DH, you can have Santander play first base, Mountcastle DH, and then we can bring up another one of these outfielders, and maybe that's how they're making room. But right now, I haven't seen. You've seen him take a few routine ground balls in practice.
Sure.
I don't know if has he ever played first base in his life?
Not that I know of. I do know that the Orioles front office loves versatility. They love guys that can play the infield and the outfield. You see Jordan Westberg getting a few starts, out in the outfield this year in the minors. You've seen
really, I didn't know that.
He actually did, yeah, and he did in spring training a little bit too. And you see guys like this getting moved around a little bit, and that's kind of what the Orioles want. They want versatility. Taron Vavra is a great example of a guy they've moved around a lot. Ryan McKenna played a little bit of second base in spring training. So you look at that, and I think that's kind of the road they're going down. But with Mancini, we know he's out the door at some point this year. I think that's the general expectation. Yeah. So with him kind of being almost the guaranteed trade, and we don't really know the status of Santander as far as a trade would go, I would say it's more to prepare for a Mancini trade to have someone to be able to back Mountcastle up at first base. Right. That would be my guess.
But for all we know, 2 weeks from now they'd be like, "Oh, Anthony Santander's on the trading block. He's also a first baseman."
I could see it.
You know that they're doing it to find a way to move somebody, if not both of them.
If not both.
Because otherwise, why are you doing it?
We've talked a lot about Santander and the value that he has, and last year the value went way down. We know from the previous offseason it was pretty high, and then it went down during the season because he didn't play well and he was injured for half the year. This year, Santander is off to one of his better starts. He's only hitting like 250 at the moment, but he's off to a better start. The power numbers are there.
Got the 7th highest on base percentage in the American League, second
walking
most,
a ton,
second most walks. Yeah. And they did this thing. And I think they started doing it with Ryan Mountcastle too, to make their players more patient with a medicine ball. Okay. And if the ball hits the medicine ball, it's a strike. And if it doesn't, it's a ball. And apparently that's what helped Anthony Santander start taking more walks. And we saw him start to take more walks last spring. Yeah. And then that completely fell by the wayside once the season started.
He had a million of them last spring. Yeah. And then he comes out and he walked like 7 times in like the first 3 months of the season. We were there he is.
Right. But he's getting on base a ton now, so it's a guy that you can put in the top half of your lineup. So that's nice to see. It's just you wonder what their plan is for the future with Santander, especially since they're trying to be first base. I don't think that it's because they want better defense there, because if he's never played there.
No.
You know what I mean? But the guy's an athlete. He's been playing a hell of a right field.
Right. I'll say his body looks like a first baseman. There's no doubt about it. The guy has the length and the body type to play that position. I think his body type could even play third base, just based on what I've seen from him. But I have no idea how he fared. That's a whole different ballgame.
He's got the arm.
He's got the
arm, but does he have the defensive instincts and
big question.
The quick twitch reaction to play the hot corner?
But why not try him out? I mean,
they are.
At first base especially, not third base. Again, that's a whole different story. But Versatility is nice. That's not a bad thing at all.
Absolutely. Now, moving on a little bit, Minnesota fans were losing their freaking minds about the fact that Carlos Correa got hit by a pitch, as if Carlos Correa didn't swing into getting hit by the pitch.
Correct.
Look, the x-rays came back negative. He doesn't have a broken finger. He's avoiding the IL. It's going to be a day-to-day thing for him. So let's pump the Jets there. And it was an 80-mile-an-hour breaking ball that came in. He swung at it. If he didn't swing at it, he doesn't get hit. And he gets hit in the arm.
If someone's throwing at you, they're going to throw 95 at your shoulders.
We saw it,
right? Like
we saw it in the 9th inning with a runner on, or in the 8th inning with Cedric Mullins up and a runner on third base with 2 outs. He's already got a double and a home run in the game.
Yeah,
they hit him first pitch. Yeah. Duran, who's been fantastic, hits him first pitch. Gee, I wonder what was happening there. Orioles have hit a couple of their guys. They hit their best player, even though he swung at the damn pitch. He got out on the pitch. By the way. That's an intent. That's an intent to hit the guy. And both sides knew what happened.
Sure.
Nobody came out about it. There were no warnings. This is the game. Whether you like it or not, this is what happens in the game of baseball. There was intent there. The pitch to Carlos Correa, no intent. It was just a young guy who let a breaking ball get away from him.
Bad swing.
And that's all there is. So I just want to squash that. Now I also saw somebody commented on a Glenn show the other day on Twitter, and they said the Orioles have lost this town to the Ravens. And look, if you want to say that the Ravens are more popular right now because the Orioles have been so bad, fine, I'll give you that. The Orioles have not lost this town. You watch. As soon as this team gets good again, as soon as this team gets more competitive, you watch how filled that stadium is going to be.
Sure.
We are already hearing people buzz about this team. For example, I ran into Steve Molesky last night. Ran into Steve Molesky. We'd never met in person. I introduced myself. He's doing well. The health scare is behind him. He's doing much better now. And one of the first things he said to me was, "This is a fun team. This is a fun team." Now, you look at this team; they're 10-16. Mm-hmm. At this point last year, they were 12-14. Now, they had given up 6 runs or more in a game 8 times at this point last year. This year, they've only done it 5 times. A difference of 3 games, but it's a difference in 20% and 33% of your games.
Regardless of what the record shows, it's a far better team.
Yeah,
it's a far better team.
They're much more competitive.
Yeah,
they are in. There's only been like 2 games where they just weren't in it.
Right, exactly. And last year, totally different story. Even with those 14 losses, I mean, you look at a lot more of your 5-6 run losses than right now, where it's more of 1 and 2 run losses.
There was a game that the Orioles scored 9 runs last year in the first 26 games. They scored 9 runs and they lost 14-9.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And that was a game they gave up like 6 home runs to the Red Sox.
And that's been all too common. Yeah, throughout the rebuild. And now you're seeing this. And maybe it's because of the pitch. Well, I think it's largely because of the pitching, but it's more of these 1 and 2 run losses, which I think is such a difference, and it's so refreshing to see. I want to see this team lose by 1 run. That's fine with me.
One of the things I said back in 2019 is you can't judge this team based on wins and losses because they're going to lose a lot of games. Right. And sure enough, they did. They lost 108 that year, and then 110 2 years later, and 115 year before that.
Yeah,
it's how many 1 and 2 run games are they playing in? And that year, not a lot. The last couple years, not a lot. This year, it's a lot of 1, 2, 3 run games.
Exactly.
More 1 and 2 run games than 3 run games. It's a different brand of baseball.
And it feels different.
And what I said to you all last year, you can't bring Adley Rutschman up and expose him to this brand of baseball. Now I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, you're bringing Adley Rutschman up. And you're replacing a catcher that's hitting about 130 right now. And Rutschman's going to be added to the top half of the lineup. Maybe he bats 6th. But this is a guy that's going to... So you're taking away... Everybody moves down a slot. Basically, from 5 down, everybody moves down a slot, and now your 8 hitter isn't, or your 7 hitter isn't Robinson Chirinos, who's hitting 130 and has no home runs. It's Julio. Wow, it's Ramon Arias, who has been squaring the ball up really nicely. Higher hard hit rate, lower strikeout rate, but the numbers just aren't there than he had last year. And that's your number 8 hitter now. And Jorge Mateo is still hitting 9. Right. This lineup gets that much better just by adding Rutschman. And like I said, you can't expose him to that bad brand of baseball. This is a brand of baseball that you can expose a young player to.
Yes.
Because they're going to be like, you know what? We're not that far. We're not that far.
I'm starting to, I don't want to jump the gun here, but I'm starting to get these feelings just from the pitching alone. I mean, it's just taken such a drastic jump. It's such a massive difference from the previous years. And it's starting to make me feel like maybe they're not all that far. I mean, they're still far. Don't get me wrong. They're still going to, I'm not saying they're going to win the World Series in 2023, guys. I'm saying that they are getting closer to their competitive window. They're inching closer. And Adley Rutschman doesn't inch you closer. He takes you like a mile closer because he's a game changer.
Right. And then you think about the fact that Grayson Rodriguez is not far away either. He's not far behind Rutschman.
No.
And Rutschman, he's up in Norfolk. He got moved to Norfolk on Friday along with DL Hall. With Rutschman, it's because, look, they're getting washed out basically all weekend in Bowie. Norfolk's playing down in Nashville. The weather's going to be much better. He's going to get an opportunity to play every day. He played last night, hit by a pitch, and a base hit last night, and a run scored. You look at that, and that makes sense. He's still on track to be here on Monday the 16th. I can almost guarantee that's when he's going to debut, is against the Yankees on Monday the 16th.
Is that the home opener of the homestand? Okay.
Of the homestand. Then you look at DL Hall. And DL Hall didn't get moved because of the weather. Because DL Hall isn't supposed to pitch again until Wednesday.
Yeah.
They didn't look at the weather and say, oh, we need him to be – he can throw a bullpen indoors, okay? DL Hall got moved to Norfolk because –
he's ready.
His stuff is Major League ready.
Sure.
Now it's about building up the innings.
Right.
And when Grayson gets here, those innings now go to DL Hall. And speaking of Grayson – well, we'll get to Grayson in a second. DL Hall, now you sit here and you have to wonder, how far away is he?
Not.
Because
not
in talking to Rich Dubroff last week, I said, I don't expect him to be here till late July, early August. Now I'm looking at it and the fact that, look, he got 7 starts at Bowie last year, and he started at Bowie while Grayson started at High A. So they thought that he was ahead of Grayson, right?
Right.
So now, 8 starts in his career at Bowie, and he's up at Norfolk. How many starts is he going to need at Norfolk before they say, all right, it's time to get to the big leagues? 7? 8?
I was thinking more like 5 or 6.
So we're looking mid to late June that we could see DL Hall here. Now I'm going to move to Grayson Rodriguez. Who's the most susceptible pitcher in the Orioles rotation?
Whew, that's a good question. I mean, it's got to be Spencer Watkins, I guess, but he hasn't been pitching that terrible.
He was not good the other night.
He wasn't good. He wasn't good.
He gave up that double where if Hayes doesn't throw the guy out at home plate with an incredible Yoenis Cespedes type of throw. If he doesn't throw the guy out at home plate, that's another run. Santander makes that leaping catch in right field. If he doesn't make that catch, that's another run.
You're right. You're right.
So he got hit hard, and there's only so much that Spencer Watkins can do before the league figures him out.
Spencer Watkins is not a good pitcher. Let's be honest.
I don't look. I'm not going to go that. I'm not going to disparage the man. I don't think he's an every fifth day starter at the big league level. But can he be a swing man who can get you 3 to 6 outs, or maybe he can get through a lineup once? Because when he started giving up those runs, that was his 3rd time through the order.
Yeah.
Can he get you through a lineup once? Well, and I can see that as a swing man. And my point here is that Monday that Adley Rutschman comes up, that's a Spencer Watkins date in the rotation.
Okay.
How awesome would it be? And I was talking to a friend about this. It would be a playoff-like atmosphere in Baltimore if you call up Grayson Rodriguez and Adley Rutschman on the same day with Grayson to make that start against the Yankees in Baltimore. That's going to be the most exciting game that we've had in Baltimore since what? The 2014 playoffs.
Yeah, I would say
it would be the most exciting, other than the opening day, and even then, that's not really exciting, other than the fact that it's the start of the year. It would be the most hyped, anticipated atmosphere for a baseball game that you can imagine. Oh, yeah. I'm not putting it past the Orioles to have that in their plans.
Look, I think Grayson. I mean, he has a 4.15 ERA through 5 starts. Obviously, got lit up in his most recent start. I think he had 5 earned, something like that.
That happens.
It wasn't great. It happens all the time. It's not a big deal.
And the start before that, when he gave up 3 runs, the defense, there were no errors charged, but there was bad defense behind him.
Sure.
Plus, he had to sit through an hour and 20-minute rain delay. But continue.
Yeah, I mean my point wasn't to say he's pitching bad. I think Grayson Rodriguez is pitching well above average, and the question for Mike Elias has to be, how much more do I actually have to see before I promote this guy? And for me, there's not much left to prove. I think Grayson Rodriguez has proved just about everything. I mean, the stuff's there, the command's there. He's shown he can get major league hitters out because there are a lot of them at AAA. So at that point, what do you have left to prove? What's the point? He's 22 years old. I get it. He's a little on the younger side, but there's nothing left to prove there. The guy is going to be the ace of your rotation. Well, I shouldn't say that because Bruce Zimmerman's been unbelievable, but he might be the number 2 in your rotation at the moment, and there's really nothing to lose by exposing him to this brand of baseball at this point because it's been so much better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then if you're thinking about what this rotation looks like 5-6 weeks from now, when you've got Bruce Zimmerman, Grayson Rodriguez, DL Hall, Kyle Bradish, and Tyler Wells, that's a rotation that makes me want to watch the game every single. Now, look, I watch the game every single day anyway, but it makes me anticipate the game every single day because I see a guy out there that I think has future potential for this rotation, and that's just super exciting for me, and it should be super exciting for Baltimore. This is a season of just anticipation, excitement, seeing these prospects, all the evaluation.
No doubt.
And look, I've been as hard on Brandon Hyde as anybody this season in particular, but I think he's doing a great job right now.
Yeah,
I think he's doing a great job right now, and he's actually, I think he's done great work in the bullpen. I think
I was going to say the pitching decisions are where he really has changed for me.
Yeah, and look, this is what we were hoping to see, and maybe it's been a little bit better. But look, again, they were 12-14 at this point last year. They were 15-16 after the John Means no-hitter, and then they completely fell off the face of the planet. Yep. So we can be excited. They're playing a nice, like I said, a nice brand of baseball. We can be excited, but we have to temper those expectations and say, you know what, we've been here before. Let's get 2-3 months into the season before we start believing that this team is better than it is. With that in mind, on the line with us right now, he is the proprietor of this show. He is Stan the Fan Charles, and he's live with us here on the Bat Around. Good morning, Stan. How are you?
I'm merely a guest on the show now. You're the proprietor of the show.
I guess you could say that, but I answer to you, good sir, and with great pleasure, so I certainly appreciate you. Stan, does this season feel different to you? Last year, they had a better record, but the team was kind of smoke and mirrors. This year, this team plays hard. Not that they didn't play hard last year, but they play hard every single day. They're gritty. They pull out wins when you wouldn't expect it. And honestly, they've been in just about every game. Is there a different vibe to this team this year?
There's no doubt there is. And it all stems from the pitching. You know, it all starts with that. You know, the pitching staffs that the Orioles have had in the Elias years of 19, 20, and 21 have been just so god-awful. You know, it was nice to have sprinkled in some good performances by John Means. Of course, the no-hitter was, really exciting and sort of showed what he could be when he's healthy. And that's something we don't really see that often. But to me, the starting pitching has been really turned up a notch or two, and then that bullpen has just been a different animal, you know. Yeah, and I wouldn't have thought when they traded Sulser and Scott, I was not down in spring training this year. Didn't see that much of the action. We saw a couple games on TV. Didn't really know what Batista was going to be like. Didn't know what Perez was going to be like, and certainly didn't know what Jorge Lopez would be when he would be fully unleashed and embracing this new role.
Jorge Lopez has been an absolute revelation in that bullpen. You go out there, and the stuff that he has is just – when he only has to get 3 guys out, his stuff is absolutely filthy. And what he's doing, he looks like a completely different guy to me, Stan.
No question about it. But I think the bigger change to me with him is that he's embraced the role. You know, you saw a touch of it last year, the second half of the season when they started experimenting with it. But this year, just what you said is true. And when he only has to get a hitter out one time, he's been a revelation. He really has been.
Yeah, and you mentioned Felix Bautista, and with him, it was, you knew the stuff was there. The guy hits 100 miles an hour with his fastball. It was just a matter of control, and so far this year, he's had some blips, but he's been really consistently good for the Orioles to this point, as has Cionel Perez, who still hasn't given up a run this season.
Yeah.
So
when you talk about is there a different feel to the team, when you're in ball games, then it becomes, are you doing the little things, like turning the double play? Are you getting an extra base here or there? The other night against the Twins, the throw by Hayes was remarkable in a game that they win with 5 solo home runs, but end up cutting off a run at the plate on that play. And then they turned the bad throw by, I think it was Urias, made the bad throw to Mountcastle, but they ended up tossing out a base runner from, Mountcastle didn't give up on it and threw a guy out at the plate.
And then
without those 2 plays, you may not win the game. But it all starts, again, that the pitching is keeping them in games.
Oh, absolutely. And some of the guys who are behind that are Tyler Wells and Kyle Bradish. Look, Kyle Bradish, he pitched really well the first 3 innings, and then he had his first time where he had to sit for an extended period while the Orioles put up a 6 spot there in the bottom of the 3rd inning, and he came out in the 4th, and it looked like he was pitching not to lose rather than pitching to win. And it was one of those situations where, people probably tell him, all you got to do is go out there and throw strikes and pitch to contact. Well, then he gives up that monster home run to what was it? Was it Correa? Yeah, he gives up the monster home run to Correa, and then the wheels kind of fell off. To me, this is a good test for Kyle Bradish because it's going to show his tenacity. It's going to show his mental state. If he can have something like this and come back and bounce back, what are you seeing from Kyle Bradish? And do you think it's good for both he and Grayson Rodriguez, who experienced something similar with that rain delay start a couple of weeks ago? Is it good for them to have these kind of struggles so they can know what they need to do to bounce back?
Well, I don't quite know how to answer that. Is it good to have struggles? I mean, we're going to find out about Kyle Bradish. There's no question about it. I don't know exactly when the debut will be of Grayson Rodriguez, whether it's going to be pegged, to the advancement, the recall of Adley Rutschman. That's clearly coming pretty soon.
Yeah.
I would think the Rodriguez thing would probably be about 3 weeks to a month behind that. I mean, I could be wrong. They may want to really expedite this thing, but I think I don't think there's anything great to be gained by not having him fill out a few more starts down there.
Well,
that's my take on it. Now, Bradish, look, he's looked good to me. That was a sort of a brain fart. I think he tuned out. He hadn't pitched in the major leagues with a 6-run lead before, so it's a whole different ball game there.
It is.
You got to stay intense.
It's a different mentality. You've got to go out there and pitch like it's nothing, something that the great pitchers in this game are able to do. And he's a young guy. It's just his second major league start. You didn't expect a Clay Buchholz no-hitter, in his second major league start. But I've liked what I've seen from him so far.
Yeah, I do too. Look, it's not apples to apples, but what happened in that game the other night with the Mets and the Phillies, it was really interesting. I talk about my baseball power rankings. So I have my rankings in what position the teams are in, and then next to them are 7 rows of games on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I have who they're playing, whether it's a home game or not, and I put a W and an L in there. And I'm usually pretty darn careful not to start putting them in the 5th inning or 6th inning, when you got a lead. The 9th inning, 7-1, I put in a W for the Phillies and an L for the Mets. And it was a classic case of sort of thinking you have a game won, and somebody experienced as Joe Girardi can fall into the same thing mentally as a manager that Kyle Bradish did. He had a 6-run lead. He said, well, why waste my best relief pitcher? I'll put in this guy that needs some innings and all. So he put in this guy, Norwood, who had like an 8 earned run average. And I blinked, and all of a sudden it was 7-4. And there were like no outs, and all of a sudden now he brings in Corey Knebel, who's mentally shut out because it's shut down because I wasn't needed tonight, and now you hurry him up, probably warmed up faster than he normally does, and he's got nothing because there's no adrenaline going, So I'm kind of comparing that to what happened to Kyle Bradish, that Kyle sort of thought he had the game won and shut down.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of talking about, what I was alluding to when I said, is it good to see them have the struggles? Because it probably changes the mindset. It makes you realize this is the major leagues, and nothing is guaranteed here. You can be up 6-0 in the eighth inning. You can be up 7-1 in the ninth and not win a ball game. So you got to go out there and you got to have that bulldog mentality, and that's what I was alluding to with the struggles and why it would be good to see. Obviously, you want them to have better results every time out.
Yep.
Now, Tyler Wells has certainly been having better results his last 2 times out. He's gone 5 innings in each of his last 2 outings. The last outing, he was only planning to go 3, maybe 4 innings, but then he gets 6 outs on 13 pitches, and Brandon Hyde has no choice but to leave him out there through 5 innings. Is he becoming a formidable option in this rotation, and how long do you expect the piggyback situation to continue with Tyler Wells?
I would think the piggyback situation, as long as I think you don't want to mess with a good thing right now with him. I think it's wise, given his injury history and the combination of the pandemic season and the ramp up last year. He doesn't have a lot of innings under his belt to suddenly say, boy, we can really do away with this piggyback thing. And suddenly you're talking about trying to turn him into a 150-inning guy this year. I don't think it makes much sense. I'd like to see him get 110, 120 good innings in, rather than worrying about pressing more innings in this year.
Yeah,
he's a big kid. He's a big kid, and if they bring him along correctly, next year he could be on pace to be a 180-inning pitcher guy if he pitches 120, 125 innings this year.
Can you imagine the coup that is for the Orioles, that they take this guy in the Rule 5 draft, he becomes a reliever, becomes almost
Look,
like a...
if I'm not mistaken, Zach and I were both critical of Elias, and I don't remember what your stand was, and maybe I got it backwards, but I know I wanted to keep Zach Pop, and Zach Pop has proven not to be really a worthwhile major leaguer at this point in his career. And Tyler Wells, it's been interesting to see how their needs ended up dictating what they thought was the best path with Tyler Wells, too. Because, we all thought, well, they experimented with it, and they've turned him into Joe Papelbaum,
Mm-hmm.
Or what's Papelbaum?
Jonathan Papelbaum.
Jonathan Papelbaum. That here was a good starting candidate that out of necessity we've turned into an ace in the bullpen, and all of a sudden spring 4 months later, all of a sudden they had a very different notion of what he could do and where his importance was in the team. And that's been a big feather in the cap of general manager Michael Elias.
I'll tell you what, Stan. You look at some of these guys that the Orioles bring in here, and I really trust their evaluation process. They did it last year with what was his name? Fulmer? Was that the guy who came in here?
Carson Fulmer, from the former first-round pick of the White Sox. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the guy who came in here, and it was a
he
small
was just
sample
released
size.
by the Dodgers again.
Yeah, and actually it wasn't last year. It was 2
years ago.
It was 2020.
Yeah.
But he looked like a different guy, and every place he's been since then, he hasn't pitched well. You look at what they've done with Jorge Mateo, what they're doing with Tyler Wells. It seems like they know how to get the best out of these players, and for people that question what they're doing, this is exactly what they said they were going to do. And they're starting to reap the fruits of their labors.
I would agree with that. I mean, I was out at that game. I didn't do the show last Saturday. It was my wife's birthday, and we did something together. It was a lot of fun. But so I didn't get to really talk to you about this. I went out to Aberdeen to see Rutschman play, and what instead that I bumped into was leadoff hitter Connor Norby, Rutschman, who we know is a really good major league prospect, and is weeks away from, now he's probably 10 days away from making his major league debut, and then Kobe Mayo and Colton Cowser.
Right.
And I said to myself, I've been watching minor league baseball, the Orioles, for like 25, 30 years since I've done Stan the Fan. And I always wanted to stay up on who the prospects were. I've never seen 4 hitters in a row in the Orioles minor leagues be that good of prospects.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing.
I
mean, Mayo came up, and I sat with Luke, our editor, who wrote the story on Adley Rutschman, our cover story, which is really a terrific story. If you want to look it up, it's on PressBoxOnline.com. We're available at over 500 locations around town, including 60 Royal Farm stores. But Mayo came up, and Luke was telling me, he hit 2 home runs the night before. And first of all, you're struck with how much he looks like a major leaguer. I mean, he's big, strong, athletic-looking build. And we watched him hit twice against his starting pitcher. And the third time, I think he hit a sac fly and a ground out. And the third time, I said, Luke, he's faced the same pitcher 2 times. He should really be able to pick one out. And the first pitch, he had a home run that was like a Mark McGwire-esque in his prime home run. I mean, a monster shot that I haven't seen out of an Oriole minor leaguer in a long, long time.
Well,
and then to find out that he hit a home run the next night, which meant that he hit 4 home runs in 3 games. I expect him to be up at Bowie in the next 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, this is a guy that, and we talked about this on the draft show a little bit, and this
Yeah.
is a guy that a lot of people think could be the top offensive prospect in all of baseball at this time next year. He's got 70-grade arm and 70-grade power on a scale of 20 to 80, which is elite. So this is an exciting. The only question is he going to stay at third base, or is he going to move over to first base, or is he going to move
Not
to
worried
a
about
outfield
where he's
spot?
going to play.
Yeah,
that bat is going to play.
Yeah, I think we should more so wonder, is he going to hit third or fourth in an Orioles lineup in the future? He's certainly exciting. Adley Rutschman certainly exciting. You alluded to it, Stan.
And Gunnar Henderson is doing some really good stuff too.
Gunnar Henderson is having a nice start to his season down at Bowie, which is, and Jordan Westbrook's the one that's struggling. Last year was a little bit of the opposite. And you're seeing, and Gunnar Henderson's been playing a lot of third base, and he's been playing it really, really well. I don't know that I expect him to make it to Norfolk this year, especially being only 20 years old. But Stan, I think there's a reason he's the Orioles' number 3 prospect, right? I think that this is a guy who has firmly placed himself into the Orioles' plans for maybe even as early as next year.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's going to dictate. His play is going to dictate how far they want to jump him this year. I mean, he's at Double-A. I could certainly see him, like in August, if he's having a really, really good year at Double-A. I could see him being bumped, up to Triple-A.
Yeah,
possible.
You got to wonder, where is he going to play? Is he going to play shortstop? Is he going to play third base? Right now, there is a serious need at third base for the Orioles. They've been playing Arias over there a lot. I don't like the arm enough for him over there.
No,
but
I don't either.
But with Gunnar Henderson, what he's doing, he's an on-base machine, Stan. He's getting on base at a 447 clip at Bowie right now, which is probably your best minor league system or minor league affiliate at this point. This is a guy who is the expectations were high, and to me, he's even far exceeding those expectations. I fully expect him to be in the Orioles' plans in the near future. Now,
but Henderson and Mayo are 2 guys that Mike Elias really and Sig really bet their farm on a little bit. They had to get both of them they had to pay them over slot to keep them from going to college, and both look like they were genius moves, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that. You did mention Adley Rutschman and how he's probably not that far away. All signs, if you're reading the tea leaf stand, point to him making his debut on Monday the 16th in the home opener against the Yankees. Is that where your mindset kind of is? And if that's the case, are you going to be in attendance?
Well, I haven't really pinned down the date. I've heard people throwing that out there. I don't really care when it is, and it wouldn't bother me if he made his major league debut on this road trip,
right.
to St. Louis. Where are we going? St. Louis and Detroit?
Yes.
It's going to happen. I don't know that I'll make a special effort to be there. If I'm not there, I'll be in front of my television. No question about it.
I'll tell you that the two guys on the bat-around are going to be there on that Monday. We've already got our tickets in tow, so we'll be there cheering them on. We'll cheer extra hard for you, Stan, so it sounds like three people.
Well, I didn't say I won't be there, but I'm excited. Believe me, I'm excited about moving to the next phase of this rebuild.
Yeah, it's one of those things, Stan, where you add Rutschman into your lineup, and that replaces a guy who's hitting about 130, and he probably hits in the top 5 or 6 in the lineup, and it makes your lineup just that much better because these hitters all slot down one.
The biggest shocker of the season, when you really analyze it, though, is would you have thought on May the 7th that there would be any chance that the Orioles weren't in last place in the American League East?
Oh, man.
They're not. They're not.
Our favorite website, Tankathon, if you've ever been on it, it shows the current MLB draft order for 2023, and the Orioles are 7th.
Right.
Not bad, right? They're in front of the Cubs. They're in front of Boston, Kansas City, Washington, Detroit, and Cincinnati. So there's that.
Right.
Yeah,
for whatever it's worth.
And Stan, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I think I picked Boston to finish in 4th place in this division because I didn't see the pitching. The lineup is really good. I don't know how they're going to pitch enough to stay in it.
Yeah. Well, their hitting has really been pretty abysmal, too.
Oh, has it really?
Story hasn't been much.
And the Yankees...
It's interesting. Now, I don't know did Enrique Hernandez get hurt, or did they just bring up Duran to give him some PT? He played center field last night, and Hernandez didn't play.
That I'm not privy to. I'm not sure, but maybe they just brought him up to just infuse some energy into a lineup that, like you said, has been apparently has been stagnant.
Really, I mean, but I don't know what they thought they were getting with Jackie Bradley. That trade made no sense at all to me.
I mean, at this point, you trade for Jackie Bradley because of his defense and
nostalgia.
Yeah, maybe you're looking. But, I mean, Kike Hernandez played as recently as May 4th. I mean, he's only hitting 189, so maybe it was just, we need to give this guy a breather.
The bottom of their order with him and Dahlbeck, and, I mean, it's just been absolutely terrible.
Yeah, well, Dahlbeck's a strikeout machine. But, Stan, we are up against it. We got to get going.
All right, guys.
What can we plug for you for this week?
Tomorrow night, Monday night, Ross Grimsley and I will have Rick Dempsey on.
Oh, excellent. Oh, that got pushed back. That was supposed to happen last week, but it's happening now this week.
Correct.
All right.
Last week we ended up interviewing our managing editor Luke Jackson about the cover story that he did for Pressbox.
Yeah, so you guys can find that in the archives of PressBoxOnline.com on the videos tab.
Yeah.
Stan, thank you so much. We will talk to you next week. Enjoy the weekend.
All right. You too, guys. Bye.
Take care. All right, and that was Stan the Fan Charles, who has 2 great shows for you every week. Every Monday night, Stan and former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley visit with a different guest from the world of baseball. And every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. As Stan just said, this past week, he and Ross caught up with Pressbox editor Luke Jackson to discuss his cover story about Adley Rutschman. Find that show under the videos tab at facebook.com/PressboxSports or at PressBoxOnline.com/video. On Monday, again, you won't want to miss it when Stan and Ross chat with Orioles legend Rick Dempsey. Today's show is brought to you by the Baltimore Police Department. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages, the best starting wages in the state, and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org. It is now time for Zach Goodman to sound off. Sounding off with Zach Goodman, brought to you today by your local Toyota dealers. Make the most out of every day in a Toyota RAV4, available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today. Zach, what you got for me?
I want to talk about the 3-22 Cincinnati Reds. Now, I wrote that record down last night. They're still 3-22. Okay. So, Cincinnati.
Yeah, they got rained out.
They got rained out. Okay. There were 6 games rained out yesterday, I believe, correct? There was a big storm going on
made
throughout
the
country.
Payoff Pitch around the league a lot easier.
I'm sure it did. We got a few double headers going on today that we'll discuss in a few minutes. But the Reds, they are 3-22. They're a terrible team from top to bottom in every way. You look up and down this lineup right now, everyone's hitting 150, 170, somewhere around there. It's a few guys that are sticking out that have been hitting a little bit better. Jonathan India being one of them. He's the star player in that team. Jonathan India is the best player on the Reds in the Rookie of the Year last year. He's on the 10-day injured list right now. He's not playing. You've got guys like Joey Votto, who is, well, I mean, he's a future first ballot Hall of Famer, but the guy is quite a bit past his prime, and he's hitting 130 right now. Joey Votto has been horrible. You look up and down the lineup.
He hit 40 home runs last year.
Did he really?
He hit 266 with 40 home runs.
I did not know he hit 40 home runs.
Yeah, he was a monster the second half.
He has been unable to do basically anything this year, along with the rest of the lineup. Tyler Stevenson, he's hit okay from the catching spot. It just hasn't been the Reds' year for them so far. And if you look up and down the pitching staff, it's just a bunch of no names. You've got guys with, ERAs basically over 5.5. Almost everyone has an ERA over 5.5. You've got a guy in your starting rotation with an ERA of 13.78 right now. If you're the Reds and you look at the lineup you put together, I think this is a great example of why MLB needed to institute a salary floor. Now they're not at the complete bottom. They're not like the Oakland A's where they're basically paying nothing to a lot of these guys, but you look at what they've done and the team they've put together, there is no one in that starting rotation. Hunter Green hasn't been what they expected so far, and he's got the lowest ERA of anybody so far. And you look at up and down this lineup, and it's just a bunch of no-names. These guys aren't good baseball players. There is very few. And aside from Jonathan India, who's on the injured list, there's basically no one in this lineup hitting. Tommy Pham is a guy who's not having a good year. Another one probably past his prime at this point.
I mean, he became something at the age of 30. What is he now, 33,
sure,
34 years old?
He's on the older side. I think he's 34, I would say.
Yeah.
And it's just, if you look up and down this lineup, I don't see how they should be allowed to throw this kind of lineup out on the field, especially the pitching staff, because it's that bad. I mean, it is that bad. I think it's just a perfect example of why a salary floor would be something really nice to institute. Maybe, $100 million, somewhere around there. We talked about 70, but they really need more of something, of substance in this lineup and this pitching staff.
Zach, I love you, man. I do. I read your sounding off this morning because I was actually in bed asleep when you sent sounding off.
Okay.
I read your sounding off this morning. They shouldn't be allowed to field this team. Who do you root for?
Well, I root for the Baltimore Orioles.
Right. And what did they do in 2019? And what did they do in 2020?
Well, okay.
And what did they do in 2021?
Cincinnati never declared a rebuild, did they?
I don't think you have to come out and I declare rebuilding.
Listen. They won 83 games last year. They won 83 games. So why would you not try to go? 83 is fine. You can take that to 90, win 7 more games, sign some guys, and try to compete.
Joey Votto was a renaissance man last year. The previous 2 years were not Joey Votto-esque, right? Mike Moustakas is getting up there at this point. Terrible in his career. They're probably looking at this team, and also they're probably gearing up for a sale.
They already started that. To be fair, but
right. So what do you do when you want to sell a team? You strip it down so that the new owner of this team has as little money as possible that they have to pay out as soon as they become the owner of this team, which makes your team more valuable and makes you probably get a better price. They're not going to give you $3 billion for your team if they also have a $150 million payroll that's middling, that they have a bunch of these guys on long-term contracts that they can't do anything with. So he's stripping it down. We all know that the Reds owner is the least wealthy of all. He's only worth $400 million. You look at, on the other side of things, what's his name? Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets. He's worth $15.6 billion. Mm-hmm. All right? This is cut and dry to me. They're stripping this team down so that they can sell it. And then maybe the new owner goes out there and just spends $200 million his first year. To me, you don't have to declare a rebuild. The writing's on the wall. We're trying to sell the team, and we need to get rid of as much money on the books as possible to sell this team. But to say they shouldn't be allowed to field this team,
from 83 wins to 3-22. That's an excuse. You got to come out and try to increase that 83 win total. That's
the Orioles went from 89 wins to 78 wins
situation, in my opinion,
47.
Okay, but I think it's a different situation personally.
It is, but only because they declared that they were rebuilding.
Exactly.
Right. The Reds, we know what they're doing, and to say they shouldn't be allowed to field this team. You can't say that being a fan of the Baltimore Orioles. You just can't.
But it doesn't matter who I'm a fan of. It's just
the Orioles starting shortstop in 2019 was Richie Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I'm aware.
They had Kelvin Gutierrez playing third base to start this year.
Mm-hmm.
This is...
If you win 83 games, you should try to go out there and win 87, 89, get in the playoffs.
There's a difference. There's a difference. If you won 83 games with a bunch of guys who were in their mid-30s and the best they could do was 83 wins, then you're probably doing what the Reds are doing. If you won 83 games with the 2022 Baltimore Orioles, then yeah, you're going to go out there and spend a ton of money.
Well,
83 wins and 83 wins are not the same. You have to look at how they did it. And when you look at the fact that they won 83 games last year after being a playoff team the previous 2 years, I believe.
They were.
They were on their way down. It's an 83 wins on the hill down to about 100 losses at some point.
All right.
I get it. Look,
I don't look at it that way.
Being an Orioles fan, watching this team suck for so long and watching them put out players that shouldn't be on the field has been really, really troubling for me and really hard to get through, especially doing a show every week of the year that talks about the Orioles. That's been really tough for me. But you see the big picture. For the Reds, the big picture was playoffs, 83 wins, probably about 50 wins this year. If that. They'll Joey Votto and Moustakas will find their swing.
Well, Votto's currently in the injured list, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I believe this is his last year. He alluded to that on social media the other week. So look, do I think it's bad for baseball that a team is 3-22? Yes. Do I think that they need to put a better? I feel really bad. Like I wanted to cry for their fans. Like you come into a baseball season on opening day, you're like,
agree.
Yeah, and
I agree.
25 games in, you're 3-22.
That's what I'm saying.
That
is my point.
Sucks, and you feel for the fans.
You go from 83 to this.
But I'm not going to come at an organization when I'm a fan of an organization that was doing it first. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So. Look, today's show is brought to you by the Live Casino and Hotel. Hotel? The best place to be for the rest of the draft, the NBA playoffs, and all the big upcoming events is FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Bet on every sport with 61 self-service kiosks open 24/7 and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. There are some huge fights coming in May, including UFC 274 tonight and Baltimore's own Gervonta Davis taking on Rolando Romero later in the month. Reserve your spot for both events right now by emailing events at sportssocialmd.com. That's sportssocialmd.com. When we come back in, we'll get to Eric from Prospects 1500 and Eutaw Street Report. Eric Garfield is going to talk to us about extended spring training, that and more. It's the Bat Around.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash-fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball-cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack Sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
Hey guys, it's Paul Valley, and there's a new era of Glenn Clark Radio as I've joined Glenn every weekday from 10 a.m. to noon. There will be some changes, but what won't change is the absolute best daily discussion of Baltimore sports.
He's Coach Kevin Willard.
Glenn, thanks for having me, and great talking to you.
New Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Rashad Bateman.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
He is outfielder Cedric Mullins.
Thank you guys for having me.
Trey Mancini.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Mr. Marcus Williams, who's now with us.
Man, appreciate it. Happy to be on. Happy to talk with you guys.
Ravens kicker Justin Tucker.
Thanks for having me.
Adley Rutschman.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
John Angelos.
Thanks a lot. Good to be with you.
Ryan Mountcastle.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Marlon Humphrey.
Thank you.
Quarterback for the University of Maryland, Talia Tungavailoa.
Thank you guys for having me.
He is J.K. Dobbins.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
The great Ray Lewis.
Always good to be on.
He is Mr. Cal Ripken Jr.
Good chatting with you.
You can watch us live at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. And podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows that the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
And we're back here on the Bat Around. Great show. Special thanks to Stan the Fan, who gave us a lot of insight on what's going on with the Orioles as far as Adley Rutschman, the pitching staff. It was a great segment with him. The Orioles, I just want to announce a couple moves that he did. They added Logan Allen to the 40-man roster. They claimed him on waivers the other day from the Guardians. So he's in the Orioles bullpen. Travis Lakin's a corresponding move. He was sent back down to AAA. Kelvin Gutierrez cleared waivers, and he is now playing for Norfolk. As did DJ Stewart a couple of weeks ago. He cleared waivers. He's playing in Norfolk now as well. And the Orioles also just signed former Blue Jays pitcher Hector Perez. I'm thinking it's a minor league deal, but he's now in the Orioles system. Zach, the Hector Perez signing, that was a minor league deal?
Yes, that was a minor league deal. Someone said it was for 2 years, which I don't really hear that too often when it comes to minor league deals. They're usually one-year deals. But he's a guy who throws 96, 97, tops 98, has a pretty good slider apparently. He was a free agent, pitched for the Toronto Blue Jays in 2020, had like a 10.8 ERA, so not the best start to his major league career. But he's 25 years old.
How do you look in the minors?
Had some success in the minors for the Reds. He's more a reliever than a starter. That's kind of his role. Pitched in 33 games for the Reds minor league team last year and had around a 6 ERA. But previous to that, before he was with the Blue Jays, he pitched pretty well in the minors. Had some like mid-3 ERAs going through his minor league career. Started out when he was like 19 years old. So it might be an interesting signing. Someone probably for depth.
Throws 96, 97 with a good slider. Sounds like CNL Perez to me.
He's a righty, but makes it a little different. But right. He also throws a splitter 87 to 90. He was posting on his Twitter account some video of him. So if you want to go over there and check that out.
Look, we were just talking about it with Stan in our previous segment, and we were saying that Mike Elias and this regime have a great ability to evaluate talent.
They do, and they have
a great ability to get the most out of these players. Now, this is a guy, you bring him into your organization with your analytics department and the videos and the camera work that you use, and with the pitch, they're teaching the same pitching mentality, the same what word am I looking for here?
The
same pitching philosophy.
Philosophy, yeah.
From the top to the bottom in this minor league system, and it's spearheaded by Chris Holt. I wouldn't be surprised to see this guy turn into a quality reliever at some point for the Orioles. Maybe not this year. He's got to start having success at the minor league level, but they're going to try and get what they can out of this guy. And somebody who's seen the Orioles get what they can out of all their minor leaguers and their young players, he's been down in extended spring training all year, as he does basically every year, from Prospects 1500 and Eutaw Street Report. He's here to talk some extended spring training with us. He is Eric Garfield. Eric, always a pleasure to talk to you, man. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, you're welcome. I love coming on, and I learn a lot from all your guests. So I hope some listeners will learn something from me.
Yeah, I think we're about to. But before we do that, you told me you have a new podcast that's coming out soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I don't like time limits, so my friend Jared and I, we write for the same website, and we decided to start a podcast a while ago to talk about the Orioles minors and all the players and all the storylines. So it's called Eutaw Street South, and the first episode came out last night. We just pretty much went through all the levels and talked about some stars and some under-the-radar guys, and we'll add on to it and make it a fun project. So thanks for mentioning that.
No, absolutely. Our pleasure to do so. And you always give us great intel on what's going on down there in Florida. So I think that's a podcast that people need to be tuning into. I'll certainly give it a listen after the show today. Look, you gave me a list of players that you want to talk about. I don't know. Like you said, you don't like time limits. We do have time limits here. I don't know that we're going to be able to get to all of them, but none more intriguing to me, Eric, than Samuel Basallo, who is one of the Orioles' first seven-figure international signings. He's a catcher, a big guy, big, powerful swing. What have you seen from him down there at extended spring training?
Well, first of all, the roster says he's 180 pounds, and he definitely is in the range where his weight's going to start with 2 for the rest of his life. So he's much more than that. He's really a big, broad guy, like a tight end body type, but he can explode out of his crouch, and he has a great arm to pair with it. So as he's refining that, he is just throwing out fast runners by 2 and 3 feet every time. So it's not a good arm. It's a true howitzer, an A+. And he's a great hitter. He has, I try to put up video of his regular swing and slow-mo it so people can see the development. It's also in need of refinement, but the results and the contact are really loud and really there. It's so early, but the signs are there that this is an impact, like, star player type signing. So really, really good international signing and good value for his skills so far.
He's a young guy too. I believe he signed, 16, 17? So he's 18 years old right now?
Yeah, he's 18, and he's also got a great personality. Like, I wouldn't say it's mature, but it's not immature. Like a lot of guys in this situation, and that I'll mention, he's very open to, he knows he's good, but he's very open to learning and being taught. And there's a specific catcher instructor down here who's getting Coach Gall, Goll, and you can tell. I watched him do the drills and the blocking type stuff, and he's getting great results out of our catchers. I mean, Creed Williams was the best hitter down here, and he's already up to Delmarva. So there's an example of, a student learning a lesson and taking it to a higher degree of education.
Yeah, and you mentioned Creed Williams. I believe he was an 8th-round pick for the Orioles in last year's Major League draft. They gave him overslot money to convince him to forego his commitment to college. What did you see from him? You said that he was the best hitter down there, and he's already up at Delmarva. What is this guy's ceiling? Do you think that he moves from catcher? Where do you see him as his career unfolds?
Well, I guess his calling card is definitely his contact ability and his large hitter zone, where he's got a lot of room in his swing where he can touch it and drive it. He's really kind of pull-oriented, but I don't think that's a bad thing. He has great vision, great wrist, great power. So I don't want to say he's like bat first, because in his first 2 games at Delmarva, he threw out 3 runners.
Wow.
And he threw out plenty of runners down here. So he's got plenty of catching skill and catching fundamentals. But I also saw him early in camp shagging flies in the outfield. I also saw him taking grounders at second. I've even discussed this with him. There's YouTube video of him everybody should watch as a pitcher. He has a great rising fastball. So I really, he's a skilled guy. So I can't say what he can and what he can't do, but when he was in front of me, he was a really consistent player at the plate more than anything else. So really, really good hit tool and power.
Yeah, and that's something that's why the Orioles drafted him, was for the hit tool, for the power. I believe he was the only high school bat that they took in the draft last year. So it's good to see him getting. Now he's gotten off to a little bit of a slow start at Delmarva, but that's to be expected. It's a level higher than he's ever played in his life to this point. But if he's a player that we think he is, and a player that you've seen down in Florida, that's a guy who will probably get it going here sooner rather than later. Another guy that the Orioles drafted and got him to forego his commitment to college by giving him over slot is Carter Baumler. Look, he referred to himself as a more athletic Zach Greinke, but then got hurt in 2020, fall instructs and needed Tommy John surgery. How's he coming along down there?
Well, remember also that Zach Greinke is known to fans for his different perspective on baseball and his personality. And sitting and talking with Carter and watching him start, I would say that's also part of the equation with him. On the mound, his stuff is coming back, his fastball and his fastball location. If you watched, you probably wouldn't think he just had elbow ligament replacement surgery. I'd say the true downward diagonal yank, like on his slider and his breaking pitches, is not there yet, and it's not a result of like not being strong enough. It's just because his elbow was surgically messed with. So that's what's like coming back now. I guess really like the true junk on his breaking stuff, but he's going 3 innings at a time. I bet in a couple weeks he'll switch to 4 innings at a time, and he'll be on, the post-Tommy John schedule. But I would say that when he starts rising, he's going to be a good strikeout per 9 pitcher. I can see the batters already making tough decisions as the stuff isn't there. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him be like an elite strikeout per 9 guy as he climbs the minors and, opens up his arsenal a little bit. Instead of like one or two pitches, maybe you could have 3 or 4, including a true finisher. So Carter's really good. The best pitcher that I've seen down here is really the most efficient starting pitching performance. Is funny. It's Matt Harvey. When it's Matt Harvey, the first 3 innings take like less than 12 minutes.
You said the first 3 innings take less than 12 minutes?
Yeah, well, the first time he pitched a perfect game through 5. The second time he didn't give up a hit through, I want to say 3 innings. His first hit came in the 4th, and then there was only 1 more base runner. So he's getting his work in, and these 17, 18, 19-year-old hitters on other organizations, Matt Harvey's stuff is a level better when it's moving, and he comes in warm. At Sarasota, it does not take time to warm up when game time temperature is like 90 degrees.
Wow. And like you said, we got to take it with a grain of salt because he's facing 17, 18, 19-year-old players down there who are clearly several levels below him. But it's better than the alternative, right, where he's going down there and he's doing what you would expect him to do. How does this stuff look for Matt Harvey? Is he hitting his spots?
Oh, my gosh.
The stuff looks good?
I would not be surprised if he makes a contribution to the Orioles and it's not in the minors. His stuff is hitting the spots, his at-bats are efficient, and he's showing finishing skills. So I don't know. I can't tell what the plans are for him, but when he comes in, he's kicking ass and making it really fast.
Yeah, well, we don't know what kind of disciplinary actions he's going to be facing from Major League Baseball. There may be a suspension in there. We heard rumors of a 60-game suspension, but nothing's come down yet. Maybe they're waiting till he actually joins the big league club to announce that. But it's good to hear that he's down there and he's dominating, and maybe he can come up and help the Orioles some point later this year. Now, some other guys that you mentioned to me. In a recent article, you raved about Anderson De Los Santos. Strong arm, thick lower half. I believe you said this guy has the attitude and demeanor of a baller. Tell us a little bit about De Los Santos.
He's not too high up, and I've seen him do some good things. He's never too far down. I've seen him go for 5 with every at-bat full of bad swings. So he's got that moderate, in-the-middle temperament, and his skills are very high level. If you look at his stats from before he got to America, he was a 300 hitter over a full season. So I wouldn't be surprised to see those type of tendencies once he gets to affiliated ball. Also, really, really good, like a fire hydrant type low to the ground build. Good athleticism, great turn, great pivots at third base, really fast with the transfer from the grounder to like throwing position. So, and a very strong arm. He's not a guy who bounces throws even when he rushes. So, at this level, a lot of guys bounce throws when they rush, but his is always chest high. And again, Basayo's a really good target at first when he plays first. But I like De Los Santos as like that corner protector type with a good quick bat. Sometimes he swings first pitch, and if he does, it's almost always a hit. So I'm noticing stuff like this about a lot of guys. He's he's a guy that has a lot of fun stuff for Orioles fans to notice.
Eric, I know in our personal conversations we've talked about Elio Prado a little bit, one of the guys that came over in the trade from the Red Sox with Andrew Cashner. That was the trade with Noah Barth-Romero and Elio Prado. Now, Prado, I know, has faced some injuries, but you seem to like Prado a lot. Can you tell us a little bit about where he is and why he is yet to play this year?
Okay. His best skill is his confidence and his belief, and he, for this level, is an A-level offensive performer. So his self-confidence, I mean, he's just dripping with, I know I can do this every single day and be good at it and beat whoever you put in front of me. So that is if people watch him, they'd call him cocky and it would turn people off. But for me, I just feel very differently. And when he gets in the plate, if he gets to 0-2 on 2 close pitches, he just steps out, takes a deep breath, shortens his swing. So he has like veteran baseball offensive skills too, and his bat to ball skills are so much better than people talk about. He's the one guy that when he gets started, people are going to just love what he does and how clutch he is. If the team needs a hit and he's coming up, he's getting a hit. So the little likable things about him. I mean, I am crazy about him as a performer, and he missed a couple days and he came back yesterday, batted second and had 2 hits. So he really, really is the kind of dependable performer. If he plays in the rookie leagues, I'm going to be there every single day and documenting his progress. But I would not be surprised if he gets warm, he skips the rookie leagues and goes to Delmarva.
And finally, guy we haven't heard much about, but he was signed at the same time as Samuel Basallo, Michael Hernandez. He hasn't played in a game yet, if I'm just basing that off of the article that you wrote recently. How close is he to getting into games, and what have you seen from him in limited time?
Well, actually, I've been looking for, what's the cool thing about Michael that I'm going to find out, or, what's something that can make me believe in him. And yesterday at Pirate City, I was about a foot away from some guy in the dugout, and he had a black T-shirt on, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and I could have sworn it was him, and it was him. He was in the dugout because he came in as a substitute.
Okay.
So he hadn't played. I haven't seen him practice or play in 10 to 12 days. So this was his first time back and his first time doing something in front of me. He comes in the 7th inning. The very first pitch from, I believe it was lefty Omar Hernandez, was a scalding grounder towards the third base and shortstop hole. Michael took 2 steps and fielded it, pivot from the hole, and threw a one bounce throw right to De Los Santos' hip and got the out by a foot and a half. I was screaming, and everybody was screaming. That was his first play back. And now I'm all right, well, I have a reason to like and trust Michael. But, I haven't seen – and after that, he got an at-bat, and he drove a high changeup deep to center field. It looked like off the bat it could have gone out, but that's what I've seen from him. It hasn't been a lot. In his stead, Frederick Bencosme has been absolutely electric, making every play, stealing bases, picking up the extra base. So he's a guy that's impressed me while Michael hasn't been there. But I have a feeling there's going to be a rookie league team with Michael at shortstop, Bencosme at second, and that'll be the best infield in the rookie league.
Yeah, you mentioned Bencosme in your article, and it looked like you said that the defense was ahead of the bat. And the defense is nice. You got, as Buck Showalter said, you got to catch the ball to play at the big league level. How far behind is his bat?
Oh, it's not very behind, but his defense is so smooth and so confident. He's just a long-limbed guy that really can get to everything. His range is even longer than it appears. So they're both good. I think he also hit 300 in the Dominican League and had double-digit steals and a few homers. So he profiles to me as an early at-bat hitter. If he wants to, he'll just see a lot of pitches and go on-base style. So I wouldn't say it's that much behind, but the defense is more than trustworthy at this point. It's developable and really, really solid.
Well, that's certainly good to hear. Now, one of the prospects that you've seen down there in the past is set to make his big league debut. Honestly, probably, if we're reading everything correctly, probably Monday, May 16th. That's Adley Rutschman. Is there any chance we get an Eric Garfield sighting at Camden Yards on that Monday to see Rutschman's debut?
I have thought about who to see and what trip I would make, and I don't think it's in the cards to see Adley. But like Stan said, if I don't go, I'll definitely be watching on TV, and it'll be something that, I watch Orioles minors, so I don't watch a ton of Orioles games, but there's other guys throughout the minors that are actually extremely close that I think I would rather scream when they come in, but it's certainly not because it's an unexciting moment or something that I'm not looking forward to. So I hope Adley comes up soon, and I feel just like you do. Batting in the top part of the order and displacing somebody with less skill than him is a true win-win. It's not addition by subtraction. It's just time to get this superstar skilled player in the lineup. So it's not because of a lack of excitement, obviously.
Well, we certainly believe that, and we certainly look forward to when you do have the opportunity to get up here, you coming up here. And when you do, please let us know, and we'll try to find a way to meet up and have a beer with you there at the ballpark. All right, Eric?
Absolutely. That sounds cool. I hope so.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. We will talk to you again soon, and have fun down there in Florida, all right?
All right. Later, fellas.
Take it easy. That was Eric Garfield joining us to plug his new podcast, talk about the Orioles extended spring training and some exciting players that could be on the cusp of making their professional debuts here for an affiliate in the not-too-distant future. We are really behind. Just want to remind you again that today's show is brought to you by the Baltimore Police Department. You can join a proud new generation of Baltimore police and make an active difference in your community. You can start with competitive wages, the best in the state, and excellent benefits on day one. You can join for good at bpdrecruit.org. That's bpdrecruit.org. When we come back in, the payoff pitch around the league and Orioles banter. That next on the Bet Around.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash-fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball-cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack Sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman, diving into where his passion for baseball and for catching comes from and how he uses that passion to elevate those around him in the Orioles organization. Also inside, Bo Smolka takes a look at how the Ravens' 2021 draft picks can make progress in year two, and Glenn Clark offers a very unique tribute to former rival Mike Krzyzewski that all Maryland fans can appreciate. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
All right, we got to do this as quickly as possible because we have arguably the biggest guest in the history of the show coming up here at 10:40, and that's Ben McDonald. He's going to be joining us at 10:40, so we got to get through this if we want to have any kind of Orioles banter. So get ready. Let's see if I can do it all in one breath. Luis Robert homered and drove in two to back a solid outing by starter Vince Velasquez, and closer Liam Hendricks picked up his 8th save with a 3K ninth as the White Sox handed the Red Sox their 11th loss in 15 games and sole possession of last place in the East 4-2. Eric Lauer gave up 1 earned run to go along with 8 Ks and 6 in the third innings pitched, and 4 Brewers tallied multi-hit games to pace the Brewers in a 6-3 win over Atlanta. Chas McCormick and Martin Maldonado went back-to-back in the second to provide all the Astros scoring, while Luis Garcia allowed 1 earned run in 7 innings with 9 Ks to lead Houston over the Tigers 3-2. Byron Buxton hit his 9th home run, and Josh Winder allowed just 1 earned run in 7 innings to pick up a win for the Twins over the Athletics 2-1. Mike Trout had 2 hits and 2 RBIs, and the LA bullpen allowed just 1 base run over the final 4 innings as the Angels shut out the Nationals 3-0. David Peralta homered and drove in 2, and Merrill Kelly came within and out of a complete game as the D-backs took down the Rockies 4-1. Randy Rosarena had 4 hits. Manuel Margot hit a pinch hit 3-run homer in the 9th to lead the Rays over the struggling Mariners 8-7. Manny Machado, baseball's leader in average and OPS, had 2 more hits and an RBI, and Yu Darvish tossed 7 innings, a 2-run ball to push the Padres past the Marlins 3-2. And Harrison Bader hit a 2-run homer, and Dylan Carlson laced a go-ahead RBI single in the 9th to lead the Cardinals over the Giants 3-2. The Orioles and Royals were postponed. They have a doubleheader on Sunday. The Pirates and Reds were postponed. They have it's been rescheduled as part of a doubleheader on July 7th. Dodgers and Cubs postponed, doubleheader on Saturday. Mets Phillies postponed, rescheduled as part of a doubleheader August 20th. Rangers Yankees postponed, a doubleheader on Sunday, and the Blue Jays and Guardians postponed. They have a doubleheader on Saturday. What do we have on tap?
We got a lot on tap on Saturday because of all these games. We got a few double headers going. Starting off with the Pirates and the Reds, JT Brubaker versus Connor Overton at 12:35. Then we got the Dodgers and the Cubs, Clayton Kershaw versus Drew Smyly, a lefty battle at 1:05. Blue Jays at the Guardians, game 1 of that double header. Game 2 is going to be determined as far as the time goes.
Love that guy.
2:10, Kevin Gausman versus Shane Bieber. You got to watch that one. That is a premier pitching matchup. Game 2 will be Ross Stripling and Tristan McKenzie, who finally can make a few starts after coming out of the bullpen to start the year. The Athletics and the Twins at 2:10. James Caprolian versus Sonny Gray. At 4:05, with the Tigers at the Astros. Eduardo Rodriguez, the former Red Sox, versus the lefty Framber Valdez. The Mets at the Phillies. 4:05, Kyle Gibson versus Max Scherzer. That's another great pitching matchup. 2 ERAs well under 3 in that game. The White Sox, they'll be at the Red Sox today. Dylan Cease versus Nick Pivetta. Cease is off to a great start to the season. He'll look to continue it at Fenway Park. Pirates at the Reds. Mitch Keller versus Robert Duggar. Duggar's off to a bad start to his year. Mitch Keller off to an even worse one. But that's a game at 6:40. 3-22 Reds versus the 10-14 Pirates. Kansas City Royals face your Baltimore Orioles. Carlos Hernandez against Jordan Lyles, who has become the number 2 in this rotation. 2-2 with a 4.5 ERA for Jordan Lyles. He'll look to keep his success going to start this season. Cardinals and Giants. Steven Matz, Logan Webb at 7:15. They have 14-12 Giants versus the 16-10 Cardinals. The Brewers and the Braves. The 19-8 Brewers and the 12-16 Braves. Corbin Burns, 1.93 ERA against Max Fried, the lefty with a 3 ERA so far going into this year. Another great pitching matchup. We got a lot of them on tap today. Dodgers at the Cubs at 7:40. Tyler Anderson versus Daniel Norris. 2 lefties again in the matchup at Wrigley Field. Rockies at D-backs. 8:10. Kyle Freeland versus Zach Davies, former Orioles Zach Davies. Marlins at Padres. Pablo Lopez versus Sean Manaea. Manea's having a good start to his year. Lopez even better. 3-1 with a 1.29 ERA at 8:40 Padres and the Marlins. The Nationals, they'll go against the Angels at 9:07. Josiah Gray, who they got in the Max Scherzer trade last year, versus Michael Lorenzen. The Rays at the Mariners. The 17-10 Rays versus the 12-15 Mariners. Drew Rasmussen versus Marco Gonzalez. 9:10 at T-Mobile Park. And then finally, we have a postponed game, which is supposed to be today. Rangers and the Yankees. Garrett Cole was supposed to be on the mound, but that is postponed as of today. There's your Saturday rundown.
All right. Now, Orioles Banter, which is brought to you by the Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. It's the best place for the rest of the draft. The NBA the draft has been over for a week. It's the best place for the NBA playoffs and all the big upcoming events. The FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Bet on every sport with 61 self-service kiosks open 24/7. And watch all the action from the best seat in the house. There are some huge fights coming in May, including UFC 274 tonight with Baltimore's own Was that last week?
That I have no idea.
I think that was last week.
Do not watch that sport.
I think this is... Guys... Go to the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. I believe Gervonta Davis is taking over Rolando Romero later this month, but UFC 274 was definitely last week. Reserve your spot for both events right now by emailing events@sportssocialmd.com. And now, without further ado, Orioles banter. All right.
I love when you say it like that. It always makes it for me. Makes the show.
I was flying through.
I got through mine pretty quick too. I feel like I didn't mess up a single name in that. Didn't you called
James
Caprolian? I think that's how you say it. Am I correct in that one?
You called Sean Manaya.
Oh, I thought it was Manaya.
It's Manaya.
I'm sorry.
Manaya.
I'm sorry to Sean Manaya.
Yeah,
I wholeheartedly apologize to him.
Anyway, we flew through it. We got it done in less than 3 minutes.
We got 8 minutes before Ben McDonald. Let's go with Orioles banter.
No, that clock is off. We got 10 minutes.
Oh, we got 10 minutes. You're right.
It's
11:30.
11:30.
A little fast. Yeah,
it
right.
is. I noticed that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But look, Jorge Mateo. We talk about the shortstops in the Orioles system. You talk about Gunnar Henderson. You talk about Jordan Westburg. You talk about Joey Ortiz.
Mm-hmm.
And Jorge Mateo is a placeholder, or so it would seem.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we can agree that this guy probably has a spot on this roster when this team's competitive.
It's funny. I was just talking about this exact situation with my dad yesterday, and the way that Mateo has come on so quickly and transformed himself from maybe that placeholder to, hey, maybe this guy's not so much just a placeholder.
He has the highest line drive rate in baseball.
Wow.
Right
I did
now.
not know that.
The highest line drive rate in baseball. I believe he's still the major league leader in steals, but somebody may have passed. You know, Manny Machado has 6 steals.
Wow.
He stole 6th base last night. 6 steals in the first month of games. But yeah, Jorge Mateo, look, he tomahawked a home run into the bullpen on Thursday, tripled off the right field wall. Watching that guy when he has an opportunity to go for third base, watching those jets get turned on is absolutely impressive. I think we're going to see a number of triples from him as this season continues. Look, the defense, that's what scared me the most, was the defense. And I was looking at Jorge Mateo as a guy I'd like to see play 5 days a week all over the field.
Sure.
Maybe a spot start at shortstop, some time at third, some time at second, some time in the outfield. He's their everyday shortstop.
Every day.
And he'll make some spectacular plays. He'll botch a routine ground ball. Now, look, they'll tell you that backhanding a ball is better as far as getting it into your transferring it to your throwing hand and getting the throw off quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Mateo has struggled the most, is on the backhand. On balls where if he gets in front of it, he probably gets the out. But instead he tries to backhand it, he boots it, and there ends up being a guy on first base. And I don't know. And it hurt the Orioles last Thursday, the day of the draft. It hurt them then when they gave up when they had 5 errors, and I think all but like 4 of the Yankees' 10 runs were unearned. But this is a guy who's playing his tail off.
He is.
He's exciting. You see why he was a top 100 prospect a few times. Where do you rank him at,
where does he stand?
Where does he stand with this team and with the future? Because Gunnar Henderson is probably going to be here next year.
Mm-hmm. And Westburg could be here as soon as this year.
Well, Westburg's really struggling.
Yeah,
right now.
I mean, it's just that once you get to the days in September, I feel like it could be a short step. But we'll see.
But you know that the bat's going to come around.
Right.
You know that. He hit well at all 3 levels last year.
Right.
So those guys are coming sooner than later. Jorge Mateo has done enough to be in this lineup every single day.
Right.
Is this a guy who can have a say in who's playing for the Orioles next year and years to come?
When he was DFA'd, I tweeted out I really wanted the Orioles to claim Jorge Mateo when this was back in, right before they claimed him a few days later. The reason I tweeted that was because you look at the minor league numbers and you look at, the fact that he's team control. Unfortunately, he's out of options, so that doesn't really help the Orioles out that much. Not that they're looking to option him, of course, because he's playing their everyday shortstop at the moment. But you look at what Jorge Mateo did in 2019. He hit .289, 19 home runs, stole 24 bases in AAA. Now it's the Pacific Coast League. We all know the Pacific Coast League is the numbers are a little bit jacked up. They're higher than they should be, especially power-wise, because the air is thinner and ballparks are generally a little bit smaller. And that league definitely produces a lot of home runs. So, you factor in the park factor, and it's maybe a 15 home run season. But even so, Jorge Mateo was fantastic for Oakland in 2019. He did strike out 145 times in relation to 29 walks, which is far from optimal. It's not the best numbers there.
Between low A and high A in 2015, he stole 82 bases.
Yeah, I know, 82 bases. The guy has 80 grade speed. He's the fastest runner in baseball. And the thing is with this guy is that he never really got a chance anywhere. You go to San Diego, and you look at, he got traded to San Diego, obviously. And you look at who he was behind, but Jake Cronenworth, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis. Of course, in the minors, they had guys coming up like C.J. Abrams, and they just didn't really use Jorge Mateo the way he should have been used. He was a utility player playing 2 times a week. And when you're a utility player playing 2 times a week, you really don't get the opportunity to show yourself and show who you are as an actual player. Mateo comes over to Baltimore, and he hits 280 last year. He had 2 home runs, 748 OPS, more than respectable numbers. The defense obviously is the big question. But Mateo has never really gotten the chance until now to be a starter at the major league level. And I think that's where the big distinction here between him and a lot of the other guys the Orioles have brought in on waivers. This guy is a prospect. The other guys they've brought in are somewhat retreads from other organizations. This guy never got a chance. They almost stole a prospect from San Diego when they claimed him off waivers. He could absolutely be a piece for the Orioles in the future.
Yeah, the 80 grade speed, the high line drive rate. Mm-hmm. This is just a guy that's exciting to watch.
Exactly.
Play.
I mean, that double play the other day was magnificent.
Oh, absolutely, man. He made a play where he fielded in New York, I believe it was. He fielded a ground ball in the hole and made a jump. He didn't even jump. He was about, I don't know, what was it, 10 feet into the outfield grass and threw the guy out at first base. Yeah. Look, he'll make that spectacular play. He's an athlete.
Right.
Again, the ground balls right at him or the backhands are a little suspect for him.
Yeah.
But if the defense continues to improve, and look, the Orioles lead the American League in double plays turned.
Right.
For as bad as we think that the defenders can be at times, they lead and that also speaks to the pitching and getting a lot of ground balls, right? But 31 double plays turned in 26 games.
Right.
This defense, with Jorge Mateo in the heart of it, is playing some good baseball right now. This is a guy who is going to have a say. Look, I don't know that he starts over a guy like Gunnar Henderson. But
that's going to be tough for him, yeah.
But Gunnar Henderson might be playing third base for you next year.
Right.
And he's been playing really well at third base. Jorge Mateo was a guy who at the beginning of the year, I was like, I see this guy as a fourth outfielder type of guy who can play all over the field and get 3 to 5 starts each week. Now this is a guy who is saying, especially batting ninth. Mm-hmm. You look at the game on Thursday night. He and Mullins had 4 hits combined.
Yeah. And
they were 2 homers, a double, and a triple.
Right.
You're talking 9-1 in your batting order. This is a guy who turns, if he gets on base, turns that batting order back over, and he's a threat to score every time he gets on base.
Right. I mean, this was more or less a free top 100 prospect the Orioles got. He never got an opportunity. It's not like this guy was flamed out with another team and just came over to the Orioles because he didn't have success elsewhere. He didn't have the chance to play elsewhere, and that's the big distinction, I think, with this guy. I just went to his Baseball Savant page to give us a little bit of perspective on some of these numbers. Expected batting average in the 73rd percentile. That's very good. Max exit velocity in the 60th percentile, also good. The sprint speed, 96th. I mean, of course, the guy's incredibly fast. The K percentage, chase rate, whiff percentage, walk percentage.
That's across the board
all bad.
Around the league.
All bad. And we know that with Mateo. He strikes out a lot. He doesn't walk a lot. And that's what to expect with a guy like that. But also, outs above average in the 34th percentile. Not great. That's definitely well below, average. But you look at the fact that he certainly has passed the eye test, I think, in both of our minds.
Yeah, he's certainly an exciting player, and he's one of those guys that, again, when Rutschman gets here, which we think is going to be a matter of days rather than weeks or months at this point.
It's got to be.
He's still going to bat ninth.
Sure.
But you look at the rest of this order, and you think, really, where's the weakness? And
not many.
And the weakness is your second baseman, who right now is Rougned Odor.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Ramon Urias has struggled,
but
to be fair.
His high hit percentage is higher than it was last year.
Yeah.
His strikeout rate is lower than it was last year. and he's hitting to some bad luck. How many fly balls to the wall has this guy hit? How many line drives has he hit to right field that just stayed up that got caught by the right fielder? This is a guy, that bat's going to turn around.
Right, and if you look at his percentile rankings, they are excellent. Across the board, 88th of average exit velocity, 68th of max exit velocity, 88th hard hit percentage, 86th expected batting average, 68th expected weighted on base average, and 90th percentile of chase rate. Guys having a good season, it's not showing up as far as the numbers go.
And Austin Hayes alluded to this in an interview the other day after the Orioles win 5-3 when they hit the 5 solo home runs. They've been stinging the ball and hitting to a lot of hard outs.
Yeah.
When they were facing when they were facing Chris Paddock in the first game of the series, the first couple of innings, they hit like 5 balls with 100-mile-an-hour exit velocity that were all caught. This team is hitting to some incredibly bad luck. As the weather warms up, it gets a little bit more humid out there. I fully expect to see this team start driving the baseball and driving it into parts where fielders can't catch the ball.
Trey Mancini's been so unlucky. He really has, and Austin Hayes as well has been incredibly unlucky. But I just went to Trey Mancini's Savant page as well, and he is, again, close to maxed out on a lot of these percentile rankings because of how good Trey Mancini has been hitting the ball hard. It's not showing up on the stat sheet. He's batting about 250. He's got 1 home run, but certainly he's hit the ball hard and really harder than you could have expected at this point. And the percentile rankings show it.
And it's crazy. Trey Mancini had a 3-hit game the other day, and they were an infield single to the third baseman. I'm sorry, an infield single to the shortstop, an infield single to the second baseman, and an infield single to the first baseman. So the guy who's been hitting the ball, who had at one point 7 balls batted at over 100 miles an hour and only 1 hit to show for it, gets 3 base hits on slow grounders to the infield. So maybe the luck is starting to turn for the Orioles. We have seen them hit 7 home runs in the last 2 games, score 14 runs in the process. And that goes along. When the team starts hitting, with the way they've been pitching, in a 3.85 team ERA, 3.63 from the bullpen, 4.05 from the rotation, if the team can start hitting to go along with the pitching that they have, this could be a lot better season than people have been anticipating the Orioles to have. We heard all this talk about their really low payroll, but they also have a lot of young guys who are still pre-arbitration eligible. And this is a team that's playing some exciting baseball, and a guy who's been there at the forefront, to see this is Ben McDonald, who is joining us live on the Bat Around now. Ben, good morning to you. Thank you for taking some time for us today.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing?
We're doing great, especially with the way the Orioles are playing. And Ben, the Orioles, look, they're 10-16 through 26 games this year. Last year they were 12-14, but it looks and feels different. I can't quite put my finger on it. I guess it's because the pitching has been so much better than we ever anticipated. What are we seeing from the Orioles that has made them be a much more competitive and exciting team in 2022?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it begins with the pitching. And anytime you can pitch a little bit and play some defense, you got a chance. And you go back before this year, 3 of the last 4 years in baseball, the Orioles have had the worst ERA in baseball 3 of the last 4 years. And now all of a sudden, the pitching has stepped forward, and when you can pitch it, and the Orioles have, I don't want to say they've overachieved, but they've had some nice surprises, both in the starting rotation. I think Jordan Lyles has done a nice job. Tyler Wells continues to build up, first year starting at the big league level. Bruce Zimmerman has been off the charts. I mean, we knew Bruce was going to be solid, but we didn't think he'd be this good early as he's been. I love what I'm seeing from Kyle Bradish. I know he gave up a little bit the other day, I think his 4th inning of work. And Spencer Watkins, to me, has been one of the biggest surprises to the rotation. I mean, you talk about a guy who had an ERA north of 8 last year, and yet he's kept the Orioles in every game so far this year. And then, look, the bullpen's better. I mean, look at what Felix Bautista, Cionel Perez, you talk about Joey Crable. Paul Fry's had 3 shutout outings in a row now. Dylan Tate, and, of course, Keegan Aiken has been off the charts. And so, look, it's been top to bottom, and I think this offense is just starting to hit its strides, guys. I mean, look, we know that they barrel some balls up early and face some tough pitching staffs early, not many runs to go along. But you go back and look over the course of maybe the last 10 games, you could see it start to turn a little bit. In the last 2 games, double digits in hits for the first time in back-to-back games all season long, 7 home runs in the last 2 games. And so, look, I think it's starting to click a little bit for the Orioles.
Absolutely. There's a lot to unpack there, and let's start with Kyle Bradish and kind of work our way backwards a little bit here. Now, Kyle Bradish's first start was really good, 6 innings, 2 runs in his first ever big league start. He goes out there in his last start and really solid, faces a minimum through 3 innings, and the Orioles score 6 runs in the bottom of the third, excuse me. And it's really the first time that he has to sit for an extended period while his team scores a bunch of runs. And then he goes out there, and maybe the mentality is just throw strikes, and he gets hit a little bit, and maybe the long home run to Carlos Correa kind of gets in his head. You were a former top prospect, number 1 overall pick, and an incredible big league pitcher. What's the mentality like for a guy like Kyle Bradish in his second big league start when he gets that run support and he goes out there and then starts giving up hits and runs? What's going through a guy's head in that moment?
Well, Kyle Bradish learned a very valuable lesson, and we all learned that in some ways. It happened to me many years ago in Kansas City where I got a bunch, very similar game, tight game, and all of a sudden you get a 6 or 7 spot, and the guys are like, hey, just go throw strikes, and, it'll work out. Well, it doesn't change. Nothing changes even with a big lead, and you continue to attack the way you wanted to attack from the beginning. And Kyle Bradish admitted, I heard him in the post-game interview, he said, you know what, I kind of became a fan for a second. I got caught up in the runs that we were getting, and I kind of became a fan. Well, that's wonderful to do, but your main job is to go out and pitch. And I think he learned something that, hey, you cannot ever let your guard down at this level. You have to keep your mental approach to what you're trying to do out there. And if you get off your mental game just for an instant, they can come back and get you. And I think that's what happened to him in some ways. It was a long sit for him, which happens occasionally. But on the other hand, sometimes in a starting pitch, you get a few runs, you start to go, you take a breath and go, okay, this is better. Well, sometimes when you take that breath, it doesn't work out. And he just couldn't turn it off at that point, and it kind of snowballed on him a little bit because the stuff was really good the first 3. And then, there's a leadoff walk. And we always talk about this. We say, look, after your team gets you some runs, the shutdown inning, the next inning is the most important. So that's when your mental focus needs to be at its highest, because if you can go out there and throw up a 0 after you get a big run support, the game is almost over at that point. But instead, he let the Twins kind of climb back in it with a leadoff walk to Arise. You mentioned a big home run that Correa hits and another walk and a single. All of a sudden, they're right back in the ball game with 4 runs. So Kyle will be better for this. I love the kid stuff. To me, it's big-time stuff. I think he's going to pitch for a long time. But it is, don't forget, it's learning at this level. And that's what he's going to go through this year.
Hey, Ben, it's Zach Goodman. You talked about the other day on the broadcast that you thought his curveball was probably the better of the 2 breaking pitches and that you really thought he threw it well, especially in that first start. What have you seen from the curveball and the slider and the way those 2 pitches kind of differentiate from each other, and which one you think he can throw for strikes more consistently?
Well, I've never seen Bradish throw other than on TV. I caught him in a spring training game when he threw one of his spring training games this year. And the scouting report we got on him was that it was slider over curveball. In other words, the slider was better. It was a more consistent pitch. But the first start for him, I actually thought his curveball was better. And, but this is the point about what you have, and each day being a little bit different at the big league level. You won't really be able to judge him until maybe he gets 10 or 15 starts and you kind of see what's more consistent. But I thought it was curveball over slider his first start. They're 2 different pitches, obviously. The curveball is a little bit slower, and it's got more of a 12 to 6 or 1 o'clock, 7 o'clock break to it, if you will, talking about a clock. The slider is more of a sweeping across the zone, a little bit harder type of pitch. And most of your starting pitchers in today's game, have 2 different breaking balls. Some have 3 if you count the cut fastball as a breaking ball too, And so I think each day is going to be a little different for Kyle, but I love the fact he has 2 real breaking balls out there. So I'm anxious to see him this next time out to see how he bounces back from this. We saw the fastball up to 97. It's got a little natural cut to it. And I actually thought he threw some really good changeups. So it's 4 real pitches for me at the big league level for Kyle Bradish.
Now, Bradish is already here, and we've got Grayson Rodriguez waiting in the wings. DL Hall just got the promotion to Norfolk after just the 1 buoy start. Is this for the first time in a long time, Ben, Orioles fans can really start to get excited about this team and where they're headed? Would you agree that Rodriguez and Hall stuff-wise are Major League ready, and now they just need the build-up to get here?
Oh, no doubt. Look, DL Hall was up to 100 miles an hour the other day. We saw him up to 100 in spring training, with a really good curveball. And the knock on DL's always never been the stuff. It's been, can he command the zone enough, right? Can he throw enough strikes? Can he be within the zone? The one good thing that he does have, at the big league level, we're starting to see stuff outplay maybe command so much. And so It's a fine line you walk. But DL Hall has the kind of stuff where he don't have to be real fine, I don't think, even at the big league level. Now, I know he's walked a lot of guys in his career, but if you go back and look so far this year and a little bit toward, he was hurt a lot last year, but it felt like he started to turn the corner last year, and having some time off really let him dial into his mechanics a little bit more, and he feels like he's a much different pitcher. And so far this year, that has shown. So, yeah, and look, for me, Grayson Rodriguez has always thrown strike. Like, he's always been able to command the zone with elite stuff. So this is what stuff looks like in the AL East. When you talk about Kyle Bradish, you talk about DL Hall, you talk about Grayson Rodriguez, this is what big league stuff looks like in rotations at the big league level. And so I'm excited about it. I know everybody else is excited about it. DL Hall didn't pitch a whole lot last year. We wonder what his role is going to be when he does get to Baltimore. Will he be a rotation piece, or will he be a guy you stick in the bullpen and maybe you can get a couple of innings out of him every fifth day or something like that, just to keep the pitch count down? Because we know he's not going to throw a ton of pitches or a ton of innings this year, but he will make his way to the big leagues at some point in time this year. And boy, what a grand time that would be in August and September if we had, Tyler Wells running out there with Zimmerman maybe, and Bradish and Grayson Rodriguez and DL Hall. You'd get a real glimpse of what the future is going to be for the Orioles.
Oh, man, it's going to be incredible. I'm glad you mentioned Tyler Wells because that was the guy I wanted to segue next. And, this is a guy who the Orioles took as a Rule 5 draft player. He was a starter his entire professional career. They put him in the bullpen last year out of necessity, really, because he's a Rule 5 guy. Now, this year, surprise, surprise, this guy's going to be in our starting rotation. Now, 2 starts ago, Hyde went up to him and he was like, hey, look, we need to get length out of you. He gets 5 innings out of him. The plan his last start was to go 3, maybe 4 innings. And then all he does is retire the first 6 hitters on 13 pitches and gives Hyde no choice but to send him out there again and again and again. He goes 5 innings. The last 2 starts have been really, really good for Tyler Wells. What is his ceiling? And is the expectation that he's going to piggyback all season, or is he at some point going to get an opportunity to really get deep into some ball games?
Well, let's back up a little bit with him. Let's remember, in 19 and 20, he didn't even pitch because of Tommy John surgery. So now he gets put in the bullpen, as you mentioned, as a Rule 5 last year, and had a phenomenal year. I mean, look, he threw 57 innings last year and struck out 65 and only walked 12. So he showed me then it was a really good command with some power stuff. And now he transitions back into a rotation role, which is where he spent his minor league career. So it's not new for him by any means. Now, having said that, you don't throw for 2 years. You throw 57 innings last year. They're going to monitor his innings as well. And I think that's all you can hope for every game. That's all that Tyler Wells is going to be allowed to give you this year, because in the back of my mind, it just feels like they hope he makes 30 starts and he averages about 4 innings to start, maybe 5. So that's going to put him somewhere in that 120 range as far as innings pitched this year. I think that's all they want him to throw. Although I think he has the body type and the stuff to give you more than that from time to time. I just think that's where he's going to be limited, And, again, it's 4 real pitches for him when I see him go. The fastball, he's got an elite command of it. And, look, let's not forget, he's gone 3 starts now and hadn't walked a batter. No walks against Oakland, New York, or the Twins now. So he's starting to show you that command. And after his second start this year, I was talking to him. He said, man, there's a couple of things I got to get better at. He said, I got to quit walking guys. I don't like to do that. And he said, I got to start putting guys away sooner so my pitch count doesn't get up as high as it was my last start. He's done those 2 things his last 2 or 3 times out. So I think he's got a big ceiling. I really do. 6'8", working it downhill, 255 pounds. Still just 27 years old, and it's an arm that doesn't have a lot of mileage on it, guys. It doesn't have much mileage on it at all. And so I could see him being a big piece. But having said that, Tyler Wells is going to flourish. I don't care if you put him at the back end of a bullpen, which I think he'd be great, or in a rotation as the future as we go forward here. He's going to be a big part of this Orioles pitching staff one way or the other.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Ben, I've been an Orioles fan my whole life. I've been watching them since as my earliest memories, and I don't ever remember really having 5 guys for rotation that you can be legitimately excited about. And with guys like Bradish and Grayson and DL Hall, Bruce Zimmerman, Tyler Wells, and that's before you start naming the guys who are at the lower levels of the minor leagues, you can really get excited about where the pitching is going to go. Now, what you have to match with that is the hitting. And you talked a little bit at the beginning of this segment that the hitting is finally starting to come around. 7 homers, 14 runs the last 2 ball games for them. And at the forefront of that is Austin Hayes. And Austin Hayes He's looking like that player that we saw who was the first guy from 2016 draft to make his big league debut. He was a finalist for minor league player of the year across all the minor leagues in 2017 with that big season. The power, the defense, the dugout and locker room presence. Is Hayes taking that next step to become a team leader on this ball club?
No, I think so. And we've heard so much about the ability. And you mentioned that year he had in the minor leagues, which is as good as anybody's that year, and kind of been up and down injuries, in his career the last 2 or 3 years. But we saw him start to put it all together last year. I thought he had a pretty solid year. And I love the way he finished the month of September last year. And I remember Brandon Hyde came out and said, you know what, if Austin, this is about the middle part of the year last year, he said, if Austin Hayes wants to be an everyday player at the big league level, he's got to show us that he can hit right-handed pitching, right? That was all. He always wore out left-handers. He hit left-handers last year over 300, but only 220-something against right-handers. Well, in the month of September last year, he really upped his game. He had his biggest month ever. He started hitting right-handers a little bit. That's carried over to this year. Now, guys, go back and look. He's hitting over 300 now against right-handed pitching, and he's staying on some breaking balls, too, which has always been a little bit of Achilles heel for him, too. So he's taking the next step. You never ever question the defense. And with the new Oriole Park we have now with the new dimensions in left field, it's a big benefit for the Orioles because we have 2 center fielders roaming around, out in left field and center field now. Both these guys can really go get it, Mullins and Hayes. And so from a defensive standpoint, he showed you, how about the throw he made the other night?
Gosh.
I mean, you won't see a better throw than that in all of big league baseball. Just comes up and throws a rocket to Chirinos at home plate, and Max Kepler is out. And so he's a difference maker to me right now on both sides of the ball. I think for me, and I said this last year, Austin Hayes just has to stay healthy, run him out there for 500 at-bats, and I think the numbers will be there at the end of the season.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. My bold prediction for the Orioles before the year was that Hayes was going to hit 30 homers, and I think that the power's there for him to do that. And then one more player I want to ask you about is Jorge Mateo. He's been extremely exciting. You hear names of Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westburg, Joey Ortiz. Does he have a chance to, Jorge Mateo, does he have a chance to throw a wrench in those spokes and make himself a part of this team in the future?
I think so. I think he's a guy that you got to look at. And again, go back to last year, only got like 100 at-bats or something. He didn't get but we saw him in the sample size, and it was pretty good. Mm-hmm. You cannot deny the athletic ability that he gives you, right? I mean, it is unbelievable range left and right, and we saw him go into left center field a couple of times, make some outstanding plays on some fly balls. Elite speed. He can steal some bases. We know that. He's got 7 stolen bases. I like his arm. I like his hands. And so I think so. I think he's a guy that you want to see. And if you're Mike Elias, you want to see if this guy really fits into your future. And the only way you can do that is you got to run him out there, and you got to give him 450 at-bats. You got to let him play every day. Just see if he's one of those guys. He's still young. He was thought of a lot in the minor league systems as a top prospect where he came from. So I think so. Now, Gunnar Henderson is coming, and Westburg is coming, and the boys are coming. But look, you always would like to have more than what you actually need, and we know what's going to happen. I mean, Mike Elias, when he was at Houston, trades were a big part, and that's how they got to the Astros. There's going to be a group of guys, I think, that are packaged at some point in time. I don't know if it happens this year. It's going to go get another starting pitcher, I think, because you can't have enough starting pitchers. You look around the league, and everybody has 7 or 8 of them, and so I think that's eventually going to happen. This draft, to me, is going to be a huge draft for the Orioles because it's not a pitcher-heavy draft, but they got a lot of picks, 5 or 6 picks in the first 60 or 65 picks. It's going to be a big draft for the Orioles coming up, and they continue to stockpile talent in the minor league. I love Mike Elias. I love what he has done. He has turned around our minor league system, and now we have the number 1 minor league system out there. And so you can finally see the light, guys, the light after. And look, I'm a fan like you guys are, right? It's been tough to sit there and call ball games, and the Orioles have lost over 100 games. It's tough to sit there and watch sometimes, I'll be honest with you. But I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. Adley Rutschman is going to be here shortly. That's going to be a big boost. We're starting to see a little bit with the other pitchers that are coming in. Kyle Bradish, Grayson Rodriguez is going to make it. It's fun. It's a fun time. This is an exciting team that I think is performing very well right now. Give credit to Brandon Hyde because this is a tough bunch, and he's running them out there every day. And these guys are hungry. There's a lot of hungry guys that realize this is their last opportunity in pro ball, and I've got to make the best of it. The Joey Crabels of the world that are out there, the Bautistas of the world that are out there, CNL Perez, those guys are performing really well right now.
Yeah, the whole team has been exciting to watch. And for those of you just joining us, he is Ben McDonald, former Orioles pitcher and current broadcaster extraordinaire for them. Ben, you've gone a couple minutes longer than we were supposed to go. If you can indulge us for just another minute or two, we have a game that we play with our guests here on the Bat Around during the season, and we call it Take to Rake. And basically, the rules of this game are Zach, and I each pick one player that we think is going to have the best offensive week. Are you game to play with us this week?
Yeah, I'm going to hop in on that.
All right, so just going back to last week, this was the closest Take to Rake has ever been. I took Austin Hayes. He went 6 for 23 with a home run, 3 RBIs, and a 671 OPS. Zach took Ryan Mountcastle, 6 for 23, 2 home runs, a double, 4 RBIs, 857 OPS. Ryan Blake took Rufned Odor, 6 for 24 with a home run, a double, a triple, 2 RBIs, and a 750 OPS. Very, very close, but Zach won. Now, normally, Ben, Zach,
that's 2 weeks in a row right there.
Zach and I are both, we're now through 5 weeks of the season. Zach and I are both 2-2-1 in Take the Rake because we tied for opening day. Now, Ben, normally Zach would get the first pick because he won last week, but since you're the guest, and not just a guest, but a first-time guest on the Bat Around, we're going to cede the first pick to you, so we're going to let you the only rule, you can't take Rufned Odor because Ryan, our guest last week, took him.
All right. Wow. Oh, man, there's a lot of guys that are starting to swing it pretty well in the Orioles right now, but none of y'all took Cedric Mullins.
No.
And I feel like Ced obviously had a really good series against Minnesota, but I've been watching him closer, and I think he's getting back to the 30-30 guy that we saw last year. I thought he's starting to use the backside of the field a little bit more like he did last year. I think he's starting to lay off some tough pitches. And so while his week was pretty good last week, a couple of home runs, he's homering in back-to-back games now, I'm going with Cedric Mullins because I feel like it's about time for him to make one of those big runs that he gets on from time to time.
Ben, that's a great pick. I was saying the other day that I think Cedric Mullins is back. He's driving the ball with authority, and it seems like he's getting 2 hits every game now, and one of them's for extra bases. A little tidbit here, Zach picked Cedric Mullins like 15 times last year and got like 9 wins with Cedric.
I was say, how could you not? I mean, he had a pretty good year last year, good to see Ced get going, man. Look, your second full year in the big leagues, he's some adjustments to do, and they've worked him inside really hard, and he kind of got off his game, getting out in front of the balls a little bit more. But I start to see him use the backside a little bit more back out toward left center field. So I like where Ced is right now.
Yeah, no, he's starting to heat up. All right, Zach, who's your take?
He's hitting .313 over his last 8 games. We just looked at his Baseball Savant page earlier in the show, and the guy's pretty close to maxed out in a lot of the offensive categories percentile-wise. Trey Mancini is my pick for this week. Trey Mancini has been hitting the ball hard, hitting into some rough luck. And look, I think even though the home run power might not be there for Mancini, I expect a lot of gappers this week, some doubles from Trey. So Trey's my guy.
Yeah, a guy who you won with last week because he had a great end to the week, and I think he's starting to heat up along with the weather. I'm taking Ryan Mountcastle. I think that guy's going to hit 3 home runs this week. I'm taking him for Take to Rake. Ben, such a great segment with you. We hope to get you on here again and talk to you a little bit further down the road. Have a great rest of the season. We'll talk to you again before then, but thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
My pleasure, guys. Enjoyed it, and go O's, man.
Yes, sir. Go O's indeed. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great one. That was Ben McDonald joining us here on the Bat Around. That was an excellent segment.
That's top tier right there.
With Ben McDonald. And we mentioned it. We mentioned it earlier in the show. That's the biggest guest we've had on this show.
Yeah, him and Ken Singleton are probably the two tops for us.
And it's not for lack of trying. Yeah. But Ben gracious enough to come on the show and a good sport play and Take the Rake with us, and I think that he might be the first guest win of
Cedric is
because Cedric is tearing the cover.
Nobody took Austin Hayes though, and Austin Hayes is getting hot. I was thinking about it, but then again, I think I picked Hayes a few times already this year.
It's not that he's getting hot. It's that he's been hot.
He's been hot
for 3 weeks.
Sure. Yeah.
I took him 2 weeks ago. You took him last week.
Yeah.
I took him 3 weeks ago.
I took him 2 weeks ago.
And then you took him 2 weeks ago, and then I took him again. He's been taking 3 weeks in a row, and he's. This was the closest Take to Rake in the history of the show. all the guys were 6 for 23 or 6 for 24 with a homer, extra base hits, RBIs. But Hayes had the 671 OPS and Mountcastle the 857. Yeah. And Rougned Odor did not walk all week. So Ryan Mountcastle won it. So we are tied 2-2-1 atop the leaderboard. I still have the leg up because I won each of the last 2 seasons. So Zach's got some work to do here.
Okay. Fair.
Zach's got some work to do here, but for sure that was oh my gosh, such a fun segment with Ben McDonald. Another fun thing for you guys is Glenn Clark Radio, and Pressbox's Glenn Clark Radio is the definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports. You can watch the show every weekday from 10 a.m. to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. You never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys caught up with new Ravens punter Jordan Stout, NBC's Peter King. We Own This City star Josh Charles and former Maryland coach Randy Edsall, who coached Travis Jones at UConn and also plays golf 6 days a week.
Jealous.
Said he would play 7 if his club wasn't closed on Mondays. Find those interviews and more in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature right now at PressBoxOnline.com. We got to get our final break. When we come back, our final thoughts on the bat-around.
Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people, people like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
The biggest pro wrestling stars today and all time all have one thing in common. You've heard them on Jobbing Out.
Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
The great Kurt Angle.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Matt Riddle. Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
The champ, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, thank you for having me.
The great Ron Simmons.
Damn. Keith Lee.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Bill Goldberg.
My pleasure.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mick Foley is with us.
This is the greatest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
MJF.
I'm glad you're happy I'm on this show because I'm freaking miserable.
Le champion.
Chris Jericho.
Le champion.
AJ, Aaron, Brandon, and Glenn are talking pro wrestling every week on Jobbing Out. Find it at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
The latest edition of Pressbox is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman, diving into where his passion for baseball and for catching comes from and how he uses that passion to elevate those around him in the Orioles organization. Also inside, Bo Smolka takes a look at how the Ravens' 2021 draft picks can make progress in year 2, and Glenn Clark offers a very unique tribute to former rival Mike Krzyzewski that all Maryland fans can appreciate. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and Paul Valley every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and even a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
All right, gotta let that bat around music play for a little bit.
Yeah.
Somehow we just can't not mention it. But
hey,
look,
it's a tradition.
Really fun show today, man. Eric Garfield was fantastic. Stan was good as always, and then Ben freaking McDonald, man. I could legitimately sit down with Ben McDonald for 3 hours over a couple of beers and just talk baseball with him.
We need to set up a little lunch with Ben McDonald, I think.
Good luck.
Good
my
luck.
man.
Yeah, I know.
Good luck. But would the Orioles permit that? Do we have to get permission?
I have no idea.
But no, just awesome to talk some baseball with Ben, which is honestly, it's like a bucket list thing for me, talking baseball with Ben McDonald. So that was awesome. Final thoughts. You won last week. We'll do that in a second. We'll do that.
Okay.
We'll do that in just a few minutes. But you won last week, so your final thought for the week.
I'm going to keep going on the Jorge Mateo tangent. I want to keep talking about Mateo because I just want to finish this up by saying, and it's probably part of a broader point here, that when you give guys opportunity to play, and when you give them everyday playing time, you can really take a guy from what he was to something completely different. I think playing time can really help a guy. And I think you see this with some of the guys in the Orioles organization right now, specifically one of them, Ryan McKenna, a guy that really hasn't gotten a lot of consistent playing time. And maybe with more consistent playing time, he would play better than he has. And I think that's going to be the theme for a lot of these guys as they're coming up, just getting that consistent playing time and making, a guy play 6 or 7 times a week is much more important than having a guy play 2 times a week. And it really changes the outlook for a lot of these prospects. It gives them more confidence. It gives them the ability to really sink into the game a little bit better, and not keeping them on your bench is just, I think, very beneficial for everyone involved. So I think, giving guys consistent playing time and even making more of these waiver claims and trying guys out and giving them consistent playing time is something I think the Orioles could really benefit from. Logan Allen, obviously, coming over from the Guardians, is someone the Orioles should definitely try to give some innings. And
number 74 overall prospect in 2019.
Oh, yeah. Logan Allen was an impact lefty in the minor leagues. And one of the guys, and the Guardians have extremely good pitching development. And another guy that's coming from there, they're similar to the Rays, where a lot of their pitchers move on to other places and turn out to be really good pitchers. And obviously they have guys in their organization right now like Shane Bieber and Tristan McKenzie who are really good pitchers. So guys getting consistent playing time is kind of the overall theme here for me, and just giving guys opportunities and chances to show that they're not what they were on another team.
My final thought is, let's go back to our first show, the day after they announced that baseball was back. They agreed to a new CBA, and how excited I was, and how energetic and enthusiastic I was. And then go to a week later, and how irritated I was that this team isn't signing any other starting pitchers. And then they're on the cusp of trading Cole Sulser and Tanner Scott. And you go back to that and how I was feeling about this team. And it's early. It's early. They're 10-16.
26 games, yeah.
All right, they're in 4th place. They're not even through a quarter of the season yet. But I look at this team, and I look at what they have and what they're doing and the energy that they play with. And then I look at what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And look, we'll see Grayson Rodriguez get knocked around. We saw Kyle Bradish get knocked around. We'll see D.L. Hall get knocked around. We'll see Adley Rutschman struggle at times. But what this team has coming and the way that they're playing right now and the way that Brandon Hyde has them playing, this is the most excited I've been for the Orioles in about 5 years. Right around this time in 2017, I remember it was May 10th. I was at the Metallica concert, and the Orioles had just had a comeback victory against the Nationals, and they won a game. I think it was 7-6 in extra innings, and they were 22-10. They had the best record in baseball, and I remember taking a step back and being like, this is awesome. And I was looking at my life, and I had a beautiful girlfriend at the time, and now I have an even more beautiful and incredible wife who's not the same person. But I had a beautiful girlfriend at the time. I had a good job. I'm standing there at a freaking Metallica concert that I got VIP passes for free. And I have the team that I root for is the best team in baseball. And then it all fell apart, right, for the Orioles.
And for Paul Valley. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
My life's gotten exponentially better since then. And I look at how I felt about the team then, and that was the last time that I was like, let's go. Let's go. Until now. And I see what this team is doing, and I see the way they're pitching, and knowing that they have even better pitching that's coming.
Yeah.
And how can you not be excited about this team? And then you hear from Steve Molesky, and from Stan the Fan Charles, and from Ben McDonald, and from Peter Schmuck, who's now writing for BaltimoreBaseball.com with our good friend Rich Dubroff, how this is the time, how you can see the light at the end of the tunnel better than ever now, and how exciting this team is, and this is the time to jump on that Orioles bandwagon. And how can you not be enthused? And
you have to be.
These are people that are closer to the team than you and I have ever been and probably ever will be. How can you not be excited about this team? And they're doing this all without John Means, and all before Rutschman even gets here. Look, I'm not going all in on the 2022 Baltimore Orioles. They're going to have some bumps in the road, and they're going to finish below 500. But I don't view this team as a 100-loss team anymore. I view this team as a team that could win 70, 75 games this year and could have a say in the playoff picture as far as knocking other teams out, not getting to the playoffs themselves. But this is a team that's not lying down, that's going to be competitive. And for me, what this team is doing, the product that they're putting on the field, the excitement around the ball club, it's palpable.
Yes.
And I'm just so enthused about and yeah, I know that they're going to have stretches where they lose 5 games in a row or they lose 8 of 11. You know what I mean? But I just look at this team and I can't help but get excited and think, man, the future is right there. You can almost touch it. And when Rutschman gets here in 9 days, you're going to feel it even more then. I can't wait for that game. I can't wait for the electric atmosphere. I'm not all in on the Orioles going to the playoffs, but I'm all in on the Orioles getting there sooner than we think. It's just an exciting time to be an Orioles fan. And with that in mind, pay some bills.
Sports betting is coming to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and Paul Valley every Tuesday at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster joins the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and even a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stetka and Alloy Sports' Brad Cronenthal help you make some money for the weekend.
I didn't really give you a chance to respond to my final thought. Did you have any?
I think it's kind of in the theme of the show that the Orioles are climbing closer, and while they're certainly not going to be a contender this year, playing a better brand of more respectable baseball is and should be the goal for the Orioles, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's been lovely to watch. Now, and like I said, there have been games this year, like the 8-0 loss to the Rays or the 10-6 loss or 10-5 loss to the Yankees a week and a half ago, where you're just like, oh God.
But it happens to every team.
But look again, 10-16, but they're not in last place. No. And from where we've been, to say not last place is,
and not even really close. They're in 7th as far as the worst teams when it comes to Major League Baseball, and not forgetting the AL East for a second, because that is a very tough division, and they will probably finish last. They will more than likely finish last in the AL East. But as far as the entire MLB as a whole, they are 7th as far as the draft order would go. If it would come to, obviously, forgetting the draft lottery, that would be what it would come to if it was traditional rules. So that's positive for the Orioles. That's the lowest they've been in many years.
Yeah, and man, you get to watch Adley Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez and DL. Like, man, I'm so excited. I'm just so excited. Now, Something we don't usually do until September, October, November is talk about the Ravens. But the Ravens had a pretty damn good draft.
They did.
Thoughts on it?
So obviously Kyle Hamilton. I mean, a guy that nobody expected to drop to number 14. Probably a guy who should have been picked within the top 10 picks. He's an impact player. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife. Can play a lot of different positions on your defense. Can play some linebacker. Can play some corner. I think they're going to have needs for him, especially at linebacker, considering the fact that Josh Bynes is currently your number one starter, obviously with Patrick Queen on the other side of him. But they don't have a lot of depth at corner either, so I'm sure he'll fill in there. Chuck Clark and him can kind of move throughout safety a little bit. He'll play everywhere. He's going to be an impactful player for the Ravens, I think. Tyler Linderbaum fills a huge need. Obviously, with Bradley Bozeman leaving a free agency to the Panthers, you get a guy who's dependable. He's a bit undersized, but if you look at his highlights, the guy just bullies people. And he's definitely a real winner, a guy that can push up front for you. You look at David Ojabo, a guy that probably would have gone in the first round had it not been for the torn Achilles. A guy that might play by November, according to Ian Rappaport, and that would be fantastic for the Ravens.
Well, if you ask David Ojabo, he thinks he could play earlier.
He said he's already biking, which is incredible. If you know what a torn Achilles is like, that's incredible coming back from that. And look, Ojabo is a home run pick if this guy can come back healthy. And the Ravens have had a lot of success in the past with developing guys who have had Achilles injuries. Terrell Suggs being one of them.
And there are people who think that he could end up having the better career between he and Aiden Hutchinson. I don't think there was any doubt he was going in the top 15.
If you watch his highlights, he looks like Terrell Suggs to me. The guy just bullies people. Again, and the same way Linderbaum does on the other side of the ball, this guy just bullied offensive linemen at Michigan.
And he's only been playing football for 5 years.
Right.
Which means that once he gets pro coaching, he's only going to get better.
And he's following his defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, who was at Michigan last year, now to the Ravens. So that's a pretty cool. They get to be paired up again. Pretty cool thing. You look at the rest of the draft, I don't have as much insight on a lot of these guys, but I know Travis Jones is a solid pick, a guy that's going to make an impact.
Monster of a human being.
Yeah, and what I really liked was the Jalen Armour Davis pick. I think the Ravens are so thin at corner that getting a guy like that who reminds me everyone a little bit of Anthony Averett. He's got that athleticism, the plus speed. A guy like that who you can just develop from the University of Alabama. I love that pick. Probably my favorite of the whole draft was the Jalen Armour Davis.
I think it was Peter King that we were talking to, who said that Jalen Armour Davis was a top 5 corner in the entire draft.
Yeah, Chris Sims had him number 3.
Oh, it was Chris Sims.
Okay,
it was Chris Sims who we were talking to, who said he was a top 5 corner.
Yes.
in the draft for me.
Definitely ball skills need work, but the pure athleticism is incredible.
For me, and we were talking with Coastal Carolina head coach Jamie Chadwell the other day. Isaiah Likely, he said the guy's dynamic when he gets the ball in his hands. There was a reference to Debo. Glenn made it, but there was a reference to Debo Samuel. Look, the Ravens, obviously they're hurting at wide receiver. We're hearing from people like Josina Anderson that they're doing their due diligence in the free agent market and maybe working on trades, but that's less likely to get a veteran wide receiver in here. But if the Ravens' bread and butter is running the ball and running 3 tight end sets, and if one of your tight ends is Isaiah Likely to go along with Mark Andrews, you're looking at, you hate to mention the guy's name, but you're looking at potentially a Rob Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez thing from 10 years ago in New England. And if they can get another dynamic pass-catching tight end in here that can take who's faster and can really take the cover off the defense, off the linebackers and the safeties, that's a dude that I'm excited to see play. And I didn't know much about him until talking to Jamie Chadwell, and he got me super excited about him. So I'm overall excited. I saw some people saying that Kyle Hamilton checks every box except being athletic, which I think is rude.
False. Also, he's not the fastest guy in the world, and most safeties aren't. You look across the league at some of the more successful guys; they aren't burners.
He ran a 4.59 40 at the combine. Ed Reed ran a 4.57. How'd that work out for him?
Right.
You know what I mean? And people said we had Mike Golick Jr. on the show, and he was saying, when's the last time that a pro was asked about his 40 time?
Right.
Right. They care for one day.
Game speed is so much more important.
Right.
And Kyle Hamilton, he's not the fastest guy in the world. And if you watch the tape, he doesn't show up as that. He doesn't. But he plays fast. He doesn't run the fastest out of anyone. He doesn't have the Anthony Averett type of speed or Jalen Armour Davis or a guy like that. But he's quick to the ball, and the guy's a center fielder, and he knows how to follow the quarterback's eyes and get to the ball quickly, and that's what's important. He's not gonna run you a 4.3 40. It's not gonna happen. But the guy he's a good athlete. Saying he's not a good athlete is entirely false.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. The David Ojabo pick, I kind of predicted that. I had told people what I thought was going to happen. I didn't think the Ravens wanted to spend their only second-round pick on a guy who might not play. But what I thought was going to happen is they were going to trade from their extra third and fourth round picks to get a second-round pick, and they were going to take a Jabo that way.
Yeah.
They ended up just taking him with their only second-round pick. And I think that they also take him because, look, the Ravens are a very well-run franchise.
Oh, yeah.
The guy's 22 years old. You're not even 22. I remember being 22 and how quickly my body recovered from everything. Not the case at 37. But at 22 years old, your body recovers damn quickly.
I'm basically there.
And you just turned 21,
Just
right?
turned 21.
When was your birthday?
May 4th this week, Wednesday.
I did not reach out to you to wish you a happy birthday because I don't
All
think
good.
You're not on Facebook. I didn't
I'm not.
see it. So happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
I'm glad you can get some beers with me at the Orioles game.
There we go, yeah.
Next
I will
Monday.
be drinking a few myself.
But yeah, the Ravens probably know that he's going to play at some point.
I was going to say they have to have some insight from, I'm sure their own doctors, but also doctors that have worked with Ojabo in the past. And Mike McDonald, I'm sure, was probably pretty clued in on the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just being he probably still knows him and talks to him all the time, I'm sure. So I think Mike McDonald had a heavy hand in making this pick.
And the cool thing, he and Odafe Owe are best friends.
That's awesome.
They are best friends, and if you have those guys on either side coming at how cool is that?
Have fun, quarterbacks.
And when they're both fully healthy, because Owe had off-season shoulder surgery.
Yep.
When they're both fully healthy, you know that they're going to be in competition with each other.
It's going to be awesome.
That it's going to be, you got a sack, watch this.
Right.
And I think you're going to see double-digit sacks in multiple seasons from both. It's super exciting, man. It's super exciting. The Ravens are getting better through the draft, and still other moves to come. As one guy, as Dan Wilcox said, the Ravens aren't done yet.
Right.
And then the Orioles, the way they're playing right now, and again, not going to be a 500 team this year, but getting better in the future. The light at the end of that tunnel is getting ever and ever closer.
Yep.
It's an exciting time to be a Baltimore sports fan, and I for one can't wait to see what the future holds for these teams. And then you throw in the Terps with Kevin Willard and the football team getting better. It's an exciting time to be a Maryland sports fan for sure. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Special thanks to our sponsors. Even more special thanks to our guest today, Stan the Fan Charles, for his weekly segment, Aaron Garfield for all the intel on the guys playing down in extended spring training, and special thanks to Ben McDonald for coming on the show and making talking baseball even funner than it already is. Guys, thanks so much.